Hello everybody and welcome to Late Night Events Top 8. Late Night Events number 157. I hope everybody can hear me. We're about to get ready to go live. We got some players playing tonight, and I'm just trying to make sure that everything works as I am running solo today. I am Voiddyn, your host today. Hold on, let me press the magic button. Through the power of the internet, I'm live. Hello. I hope everybody's having a fantastic today, looking at my beautiful face as we get ready to watch some Pokemon Top 8. Brought to you by the Shuffle Squad. Late Night Events number 156, I want to say? 157. 157. One of these days I'll learn how to count. We are looking at a cool top 8. I'm pulling it up right now, looking to see what type of players we have and what we're looking to go for. So, I believe we have a player known as Greninja Boy that is in the top right now, playing a Mew Genesect versus Palkia. I'm really excited this new Palkia deck has popped up. We are going to transfer over right away, not too much time because things are flying. We're going to see some fast, great match games today. I hope you guys hold on with us as we get ready to play Pokemon Standard. I will see you guys in a couple seconds. Hold on to your pants. We're going to jump straight into it. Hello folks, we are back. I apologize, it is not popping up. We are getting things working. 2 seconds, I apologize, as we get this going on. I apologize, folks. We are here in a match in progress. Greninja Boy on the Mew VMax deck versus the Palkia deck. We are a little bit all over the place with this today, and I hope that things go a little bit smooth. We are looking at the classic Mew VMax deck versus what looks like to be Palkia. If people don't know, Palkia is that original form Palkia deck that has seen play at a couple of regionals down the line. It is the one that takes advantage of Palkia VStar as well as Ice Rider, Chempao. It is overall just a water box deck. Water overall. Apologies, friends, as you see stuff live. We are going to try to fix this to make it look a little bit readable for the user base. We see that the Mew VMax deck is setting up, but only one Greninja, but an Iono in the opening hand. Looks like something that is going to be a very strong start for those involved. I'm excited to see what this type of matchup is. When you play usually against stuff such as Iono in the format, being able to stop or refill these hands with such an aggressive deck like Mew, it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. We see the Palkia player, Segze. I apologize if I say your name wrong. Segze is searching for the Luminion, getting this set up, getting Palkia Vs into play, possibly starting to get that Spirit Tomb into play as well. But it looks like that we're just getting some ramp onto the Ice Rider Calyx and doing what is very strong here, removing one of the Mew Vs from the game, getting some prize cards, and getting an early knockout, which seems to be still this beginning game. We see that Mew VMax player going for the Iono. Getting a setup, getting a brand new hand. And look at that, a Feather Ball, a Genesect V. We're getting that bench filled so that the Genesect V player can get a bunch of stuff going on here. I do see that, you know, due to the prizes that the Mew VMax player has gotten, we will not be able to get a great gameplay going on here. Unfortunately, you hate to see that, but that is what the best of 3. He prized all VMax's Greninja. Palkia's already won. Yup, it's a little bit, we can see, chat, it is a little bit delayed on my end. I apologize. I am running solo today. Yeah, I can't believe it is so unfortunate when a player does that and prizes all their VMAXs. But that is just the nature of Pokemon as a whole. The music's a bit too much. I'm lowering it right now. I apologize. This is the first time we're doing a live test here. Music should be way down further than it was before. Let me know if that helps a bit. Okay, so look, the Mew VMax player, Greninja, got a Mew V on the start. Genesect in hand, Mew VMax in hand, double battle VIP pass. It looks like, you know, we are here to go. Sometimes maybe you see, maybe not against the Palkia matchup, you might have an early path to the peaks. Probably not though, because, you know, the Palkia player is looking to get a bunch of energy into the discard to ramp real quick with that Origin Palkia VStar ability. And just like that, you know, using Battle VIP Pass, one of the strongest cards in the format, to get consistency, to get the Mew V, the Genesect V, get everything set up. And while you're in this too, you never forget that you get a full look at what's in your list. So, you know, unlike before, it looks like, you know, Greninja, our Mew V player, is having a better overall look at what is happening here. Okay, the Crematic, a card that we used to see all the time. Definitely a staple in the Mew VMAX deck, getting cards out of your hand ASAP. Let's see what Greninja finds off this heads. Going for the DTE, which is pretty strong here, you know, hoping that we can get ourselves into a situation where, you know, if there's an Iono coming down, if other stuff comes down, right, you're not going to find a lot of these bad cards. You're going to find cards that, you know, that can get used to kind of get yourself out of a bricking situation. This is one of the strongest parts about the Mew VMAX deck. Just being able to draw a bunch of cards, thin out your list, find stuff you don't need. There's even an argument down the line that you put down a Power Seal Stone somewhere, or Forest Seal Stone somewhere, to, you know, to make sure that you don't get Iono'd out of a good play. But the Palkia player playing the Iridia, probably getting set up one way or another. Now, this is one of the cool things about the Palkia list, right? The Palkia list plays so many different cards that are just overall very strong in the list, right? So, you know, going for that Palkia V-Star's V-Star ability is very strong. Being able to use the Subspace Swell is a very good one too, but I think just straight up going for that VIP Battle Pass plays, getting out the Greninja, getting, you know, something else like Mew, getting Spirit Tomb. Oh, there we go. There's the Lost Vacuum coming down, getting rid of that path to the peak, allowing the Palkia player to be online with all of its abilities. Let's see where the play comes from here. Another Battle VIP Pass coming down, getting those out of the deck as soon as possible and being able to fill your bench, enabling both the Palkia V-Star's ability as well as making sure you hit all those attackers that you do not want to mess in this format. One of the best things in the format. And we got that Ice Rider out as well. I'm interested to see how the Palkia player kind of puts the, you know, puts the pressure onto the Mew VMax player. We got the Genesect V searching with the help of that Forest Seal Stone, finding a boss's orders. Looks like we're getting a knockout on something here, or maybe even just stalling with a Spirit Tomb. Because Spirit Tomb is not just you, it is both you and your opponent's basic Pokemon V. Sitting here, you know, probably Mew VMax player Greninja goes, you know what? Who needs those abilities? I have a Judge in hand. I can find everything I need. Might as well put that Spirit Tomb in the active, get that quick knockout, and, you know, that's all you need. And you hate to see it, the first prize coming out of the prize of the Mew VMax player is the Battle VIP Pass, which, unfortunately, it's real hard to get out of your hand right now with only 2 cards in hand, but if you need to judge, you need to judge. That's just how it is. Iridia coming down from the Palkia, grabbing an Earthen Vessel and a Palkia VStar Earthen Vessel, discarding that energy, filling that graveyard with that energy to be able to use that VStar ability to get that burst that you're looking for out of this list. Palkia VStar being able to use stuff such as the Star Portal VStar ability and things such as the Melanie. It's so important to get those energy into that discard as soon as possible. And we see the Star Portal. Let's see where the energy goes on to. Looks like we're going to get an energy onto the active, an energy onto the Ice Rider, and an energy onto the other Palkia V-Star. We got that Subspace Swell attack going out onto the Mew VMax, and that Judge coming out of the Mew VMax player. We see Greninja kind of dumping all the good cards, or out of all the bad cards, useless cards out of their hand, getting ready possibly to use Greninja again to refill their hand. Let's see how this goes. Now the question is, right, do you go down a card with the escape rope, possibly losing the knockout or, you know, something against the Palkia, to get another Mew in there to also draw more cards, maybe looking for those fusion tablets? Maybe? Power tablets? Let's see what we get out of this. Now, drawing into, as you can see, the hand is not perfect right here, but there are cards that can possibly be played, such as Lost City, Town Store, things of the sort. A lot of the consistency pieces and some hate pieces as well. I'm interested to see where this goes. Now you see that Mew VMax getting shuffled into their deck. That's one of the strengths of Mew V, being able to shuffle itself into the deck and everything attached, making sure you don't lose that energy, as I believe that Greninja Boy only plays 4 double turbo energy in the list. We look to see, you know, being able to shuffle that stuff back in, get a use of it later, deny your opponent prize cards. One of the coolest things of the list, being able to use any ability of Fusion Strike Pokemon on your bench. And we have the Ice Rider VMax coming down. Ice Rider VMax has the attack Ride of the High King, deals 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, or it allows you to discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, dealing 120 more damage for each card discarded this way. Being able to recycle energy is one of the Palkia's best things it can do. So, let's hold on and see where it goes from there. Using that Feather Ball that allows you to find a Pokemon without a retreat cost or a very low retreat cost. Pulling it up right now just to double check that I don't misspeak. Yep. Search for your deck for something that has no retreat cost, reveal it, put it into your hand. Those Mew Vs not having a retreat cost is huge for this deck. Also, being able to use the de-evolution TM to possibly, you know, get some good stuff going on here as well. I wonder if we're going to get a full-on attack or a de-evolution. It's always interesting to see. Although we will probably get a full-out attack from the Mew VMax right here. And just 10 shy of knocking out that Palkia origin form. It's always hard when the damage is like that close to getting the knockout. Now in this matchup, you know, Palkia was a huge thing for a little while. I feel like it's much better than it was before, and this format can really see a reawakening or a resurgence of the Palkia gameplay. I'm very interested to see what happens with it. The Luminion V coming out, probably searching out that Melanie, being able to get more energy from the discard onto Pokemon Vs and drawing cards. But here comes the Iono. Interesting to see this. Oof, and that's 3 lost vacuums for the Mew V player. Using that Earthen Vessel to search for more energy, discarding to concealed cards to get even more energy, or to get even more cards. I find it very interesting to see what's going to come out here, but, you know, Greninja needs to be careful because while the Mew Vs are on the bench and they're ready to go, at the same time, you kind of want to be careful on how many Mew Vs you're willing to give up, especially because the deck only has a certain limited number of them. And also, it doesn't seem to be playing any way to recycle them back in. No Super Rod. No Pokemon Recycle. So if there are any Mew Vs in the prize cards, it's going to be very, very hard for them to, for Greninja to retain that Mew count. And there we see Seg says, take a knockout on the Mew V. Now, this is kind of the strength of the Palkia VStar in this situation. Both players are filling up their bench. Both players want to get as many Pokemon out as possible. There we go, another Mew V going onto the bench just in case something needs to get shuffled in. Fusion Strike system with the reload. And that Mew being in the Lost City hurts a lot. But again, I don't see any way for them to get it back from their discard. Lost Vacuum, discarding Lost Vacuum, getting rid of a tool card as it is no longer needed, and we want to dump they want to dump as many cards out of their hand as the Mew VMax players do. Now, I wonder what it is going to take for a knockout here. I got something higher. Maybe there's a look for a boss's orders or something else. You never know what happens when something like Palkia, which was a respected deck in the format, is finally coming back. It did top recently, so it is definitely a contender. But I believe that the Mew the Mew VMax player is looking for a boss's order. 9 cards left in deck. Something to be conscious about too, right? One of the ways that the Palkia player can win is say, you know what? You will eventually draw out of cards. You have nothing to go back in. Your card draw means nothing if you have no cards left in deck. And there is that Professor Turo. But right now, I believe it is just going for a quick and easy knockout, possibly shuffling back into deck, stopping yourself from decking out. But let's see what happens here. Max Miracle coming out of the Mew VStar. And getting a Cram-O-Matic out of prizes, that's not bad. That will try, if you win your flip, that will get you your boss's orders out of your 3 cards in deck. But there are no Greninja shenanigans going on here. Palkia player sends up the Ice Rider VMax. If I was in the Palkia player's situation, I would not be as nervous about what is going on here. You know, when the Mew player is down to 3 cards in deck, you kind of have them on the run to reset up every single time to force them to have a Mew VStar going here. Now, if you're the Mew VStar player, yup, you take out that Mew V right away, stopping your opponent from shuffling things back into their library, making them draw out if they need to. Also, it has lower HP, right? So it doesn't matter. So you just knock it out. You get your quick knockout no matter what. Now, I just wonder what the Palkia player is searching for in their list. Mew EX. Now, Mew EX is great because it allows you to copy your opponent's ability and is also a draw engine. Oh, did I just say Mew VStar? Oh, my bad. Mew VMax. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. What can I say? Mew EX is what I meant to say. And there's that boss's orders that they were looking for before. But now at this point, when you use Chrematic, what are you looking for in list? You have 2 cards left in list. Maybe you're looking for something to, you know, seeing what's left in your list. Maybe just using it just to use it. But here comes what is essentially a really good knockout for the Mew VMax. Right? Getting Lumineon into the active, getting the knockout there. Now, note, this does have the Defiance Band on it, right? But really, the Defiance Band is pretty good in certain matchups to let you hit the number and negate that double Turbo Energy's damage decrease. But, you know, at the same time, this is prize card to prize card. You know, the Palkia player might have it if they have a boss's orders. Heck, they may even have it from Chien-Pao. That is a ton of energy to discard off the board to get the knockout. Let's see, how much does Chien-Pao hit per knockout? Or, sorry, per energy discarded? Well, it's more than enough. It's 360. It is 60 per energy discarded this way. With a little bit of the flex, I feel like... well, not even a flex. It's just a, hey, look, we hit critical state. I used Chien-Pao. I got the win. And just like that, it is decided. That is 2-0 to the Palkia player. Unfortunately, game 1 was very disappointing to how it works. But, you know, that just is what it is. So we will be looking for another game shortly. It's glad to see that Chien-Pao can actually do it. And, you know, that was a fantastic game to watch. We got to see, you know, people really flex what makes these decks good. And also kind of just show off what could happen sometimes when you do not, you know, when you just hit the bad luck that is... you know, that is Pokemon. So I will take a look for another game for us to watch in this top 8. So hold on tight, folks. I will be right back. We are jumping into another game right now. 2 seconds as I pull it up. Let's see. I'm very interested to see how this game is going and what is happening. As I configure this, folks, it looks like a Lost Box variant versus... Oh, is this even a tournament game, or is this just a... Give me 2 seconds to find out if I just opened up someone random in the tournament. Hope that is not the correct one. What about this one? This looks like Gardevoir versus Goodra Lost Zone Box. I will pull this up for y'all right now as we see what happens here. All right, here we are with game 2. I'm not sure as to why we lost our cropping on that, but I will fix it live as we go. We jump into the middle of Gardevoir versus a Goodra Lost Zone Box. Goodra Lost Zone Box is definitely one of my favorites when it comes to the different variants of Lost Zone. And you know, when it comes down to it, I think that overall, I would not count out Lost Zone when it comes down to it. Surprised to still see people play Ice Rider. I'm very, very surprised too. It was not something I was expecting to see today. Now, as we see there, right, we see that Gardevoir got knocked out, or I'm sorry, the Kirlia got knocked out by the Sableye, right? Using Artisan as a very strong way to grab your Pokemon out of your deck. It looks like we're getting Cresselia onto the bench, possibly looking to see if Screamtail's worth using, but moving those damage counters off of... Oh, Screamtail might be the choice here, as you don't have to hit any of the huge numbers. I'm interested to see how this goes. Goodra and Gardevoir, some of my favorite decks in the format as well. I'm excited to see where this goes. A level ball unfortunately missing. Iono coming out and shuffling both hands into decks. And honestly, with one prize card left, the Gardevoir deck is on the back foot. I wonder how this is going to go, right? Gardevoir, there's a lot of times where I count Gardevoir out, but it always impresses me and comes back. I hope that we get to see another one of those games soon. Looks like we're getting... The Gardevoir player is deciding whether or not they want to throw away that Psychic Energy to draw, maybe use an Ultra Ball instead. Who knows what the correct choice is here, because it is always rough. At this point, though, it does not matter if a 2-prizer comes down onto the bench. Something just needs to be able to live against the Goodra menace that is sweeping right now. Using Kirlia to refine away that Lost Vacuum. Unfortunately, nothing right now. I'm not quite sure what the board state is, enough to give you an out, but I'm excited to see what happens here next from both players. It looks like our Gardevoir player is sitting here and also considering what their outs are, whether or not they are able to just simply put enough damage counters on something and get another knockout. Reversal energy on that Gardevoir as well, so it's very interesting to see. I believe that a setup is being made just to make it so that if Gardevoir in the active has to be brought out or needs to retreat for whatever reason, which it looks like it's being retreated now, I guess the idea is put something with a lot that could take a lot of hits and put it in the active so that that Goodra doesn't come into the active and just get the counter knockout. Miracle Force coming out of the Gardevoir EX, getting the knockout on Sableye. 4 prize to 1 prize. Gardevoir player probably on the edge of their seat right now wondering, am I going to be able to pull it out? Am I going to be able to win this? Looking at both players' decks right now, the Gardevoir player was 6-0-2 going into this. The Goodra player was 6-1-1. For those not versed in the Goodra Lost Zone deck, Goodra Lost Zone is all about getting Goodra ramped up and it being able to take a lot of hits with Rolling Iron that allows it to take 80 less damage from your attack from opponent's attacks next turn, and also a VStar ability that allows you to heal all damage from this Pokemon. Another Iono coming out, which is very, very risky when you only have 1 prize card left, but, you know, you're sitting there with a Comfey in the active, you know, already been used. Unfortunately, a Turo coming down, which is huge here, because now you can remove damage counters off the board, as well as a rare candy. If there was a way to discard some more of this energy, you could probably work around something, but at the end of the day, you probably want to knock out that Goodra, if at all possible. That reversal energy is still live due to the 1 to 4 prize matchup. Oh, and there's another Iono, as well as... Oh, there's the refinement coming out, discarding the energy. Grabbing Cresselia and another energy. I love PJ. I absolutely love seeing Goodra make a comeback. I'm so excited to see this happen. Avery coming out too. I wonder how this is really going to push forward. Right, so the idea is that do you use Avery drawing 3 cards, making it so your opponent still doesn't draw any? That one card in their hand isn't helping them. Right? You got a worker coming out too, just in case you want to, in the future, draw more cards, get rid of that stadium. And honestly, you know, if you're the Gardevoir player, you're thinking, man, do I really knock out this Comfy, right? Because knocking out the Comfy is important, but at the same time, you don't want to get counter knocked out right away. Right? Our active players thinking, well, do I just take the attack anyway, knowing that Goodra VStar comes out doing 200 damage next turn? But with Turos in hand, maybe you think to yourself, hey, look, I can Turos my Gardevoir, get everything back, evolve that Kirlia on the bench, right? You know, you're not out just yet. That counter catcher being very important in this matchup, though. I'm excited to see it. Unfortunately, here comes the escape rope, the one card that really helps Goodra take that last prize card onto that Screamtail. And honestly, this was one of those moments, I say it all the time, you make your opponent have to have it, and the opponent had it. Game goes to the Goodra player here. I don't know. I do not know if that was game 2, game 3, but either way, the last little bit that we saw there was a very good game. 750 damage done by the Goodra player. Wow, that's insane. So, a good games to each of our players. I will check to make sure that there is not another game playing before we go to the next one. Oh, looks like that there is either game 2 or game 3 going on right now between Gardevoir and Goodra. Looks like that the Goodra player will be on the play. And Lost Box going on the play is always such a good idea because you want to be able to set up, you want to be able to make sure that you can try to get as much of an advantage as possible being able to use Mirage Gates on turn 2. Right? Being able to get such a big setup there, if you can, would be huge. But, you know, it's not impossible, it's not, you know, it's not common, but it's definitely something that could happen. Starting with the Zacian V in the active, right? Also drawing a card, which is pretty good. Oh, wow. Starting with the Sableye does not feel good. We have the Gardevoir player looking to set up with the Ralts, maybe, coming out of the Level Ball. Level Ball letting you find any Pokemon that is 90 HP or less. Sometimes you gotta do a deck check, see what's in your deck, what's in your prizes. Looks like 2 Gardevoir with the Shining Arcana ability left in the deck. I do always have to envy the players, though, that can look at their list and search through and be like, you know what? I know that this card's in my deck. I know this card's in my deck. I know I've prized all these cards, because sometimes when I search through, I go, I have no idea what my prizes are. A Ralts possibly going onto the bench. We have an Ultra Ball and a Counter Catcher in opening hand, which seems very, very strong. Maybe the Ultra Ball helping to get another Ralts onto the bench as well, but there is also that rare candy there as well that maybe will allow a turn 2 Gardevoir EX as well as a Kirlia to allow for that Misty Step, I believe it's called? Misty Step? Step, I apologize. Mirage Step. Got the Colress's Experiment coming out from the Goodra player. Colress on turn 1 is always the dream, being able to hopefully find the cards that you need, and hopefully the Colress... Okay, Mirage Gate and an Energy is never good to see when you have to do it. That means it was such a hard choice for the opponent. But coming in and being able to go, look, Ralts and putting Ralts in the active and that Comfy in the active, being able to possibly Flower Select Comfy might be very strong here. Switch Cart going into the Lost Zone. How coming another Nest Ball for a Comfy. And looking to get that other flower selecting. I don't believe I saw what went into the Lost Zone, but I believe it might have been a trainer. Maybe it was their Iono. Either way, it looked like no matter what was whatever was passed was a snap. And there goes the Cramorant attacking right away. Cramorant, grabbing the free knockout against the Ralts due to having multiple lost cards in the Lost Zone. And we might be getting that Mirage Step sooner than later. Which is always real good to see. Unfortunately, I think the only Pokemon that goes on the bench there has to be the Ralts, as the Screen Tail is in hand, and maybe you don't get the Cresselia at all off of that, but it's always great to see that you could get a bunch of Curlias on the bench for almost free with that Mirage Step attack. One of the highlights of playing that Curlia in the list. Switch card into the Comfy, into the Flower Selecting, classic play. Being able to see, you know, hey, let's get rid of that Battle VIP Pass. It does nothing here. One of the All-Star cards in the deck, Jet Energy, being able to switch another Comfy into the active at the cost of your energy attachment, which, you know, honestly, at this point, Goodra may not even care about, because of the fact that, look, you know, you're looking to evolve and also, you know, and also gate those energy out onto it. And with that, just putting the Cramorant into the active and passing the turn. Now you're sitting across from a Gardevoir player that has their bench filled with Curlias, a Ralts, basically saying, look, you know, I'm going to get ready to do a whole bunch of attachments, get a bunch of attackers going out. You know, my opponent is completely all set. But part of me wonders, you know, is there a world where you want to Iono to make sure that you get rid of your opponent's cards? Because whatever cards are in their hand, well, maybe you don't want to draw them into the perfect hand too. One of the strengths of Iono is being able to make your opponent go down on cards as well. But here we go with the Fog Crystal, choosing whether or not they want a Energy or a Gardevoir EX to their hand. Looks like that Curlia is going to discard that Psychic Energy that they found with the Fog Crystal. And there is the Shining Arcana Gardevoir, ready to get some energy out onto the field as soon as possible, but unfortunately did not find energy from that Shining Arcana. Our Gardevoir player debating whether or not they want to attach that Psychic Energy to the Zacian V, possibly get an attack off this turn, or maybe just retreat. There's a world where you try to find a Psychic Energy from your deck and attach it to the Zacian V, you know, or maybe you just say, hey, look, I'm gonna get this thing the heck out of here. But it is able to absorb and attack. But is that going to be enough? And that ability ending the Gardevoir player's turn, but being able to search for an energy out of your deck is huge, being able to get everything kind of set up as well. We see another Colress's experiment coming out of the Lost Zone box player, the Goodra player. Always fun when the Lost... Oh, getting rid of the... getting rid of some cool individual cards. I didn't catch it because it went by a little bit too fast. Zamazenta, I believe, was one of the cards that got brought away. And with that, you know, Lost Box is going to do what Lost Box does. You know, 110 damage with Cramorant. And, you know, but we get that retreat. We get the Cresselia out. Getting, you know, getting Reversal Energy set out. Collapse Stadium to knock some stuff off the bench. You know, stop your opponent from having all the advantage in the world. It's interesting to see where this is going to go. Being able to, the Iono coming out, as well as the Refinement discarding some cards here. Getting rid of those cards that seem to no longer have impact on the game, such as Level Ball and the Stadium. Trying to get as many Shining Arcana outs as possible, and hopefully finding your way into getting a Gardevoir EX. And there's that Gardevoir EX, almost like as soon as we needed it, it was there. Making sure that you rare candy the Ralts instead of getting rid of the Curlia, which is a huge draw engine for the list. Now it looks like this is the classic Cresselia play. Put 2 damage counters on each of your Pokemon so that you can transfer it onto your opponent's Pokemon. Seems like a very strong play here. Maybe the only thing you do not put it on is the Ralts. Right, because you do not want an energy trapped on that Ralts. Moonglow Reverse, moving all those damage counters. I believe that the Sableye probably has to be the thing that goes. The Sableye threatens a lot of damage and a lot of pick-off right away. Almost so much that it warrants... You know, Cramorant dealing, what is that, 100 damage to the active. It stinks, but, you know, sometimes that's all you can do. Oof, the miss on the Pokegear from the Lost Zone box player. And the manual attachment. Here comes the boss's orders. Maybe we get the Cramorant knockout onto the Curlia. Yup, sometimes you just have to take the prizes given to you. And that prize is definitely a freebie. Stopping another Gardevoir and also stopping the draw, I think I'd take that overall, especially with a free attacker. Here we have the Shining Arcana coming out of the Gardevoir player. Then a second Shining Arcana maybe coming out of the Gardevoir player. I believe that our Gardevoir player is saying, look, how many energy do I have left in deck? Because I only have 10 cards left in deck. Is it really worth trying to do it? Or is a whole bunch of my Psychic Energy and prizes? A second Reversal Energy possibly coming onto the Gardevoir? But here's that Shining Arcana. Miss on both. You hate to see it. Reversal Energy coming onto that second Gardevoir. Psychic Embrace putting that energy onto the Gardevoir EX. Now, if I were the Gardevoir player, I say I have Counter Catcher, I have a ton of Reversal Energies. I'm going to try to knock out that Goodra. Yep, and I believe that's where we're going with this as well. So many, 5 Pokemon in the discard. Both decks going through a majority, or both players going through a majority of their decks right now. It's interesting to see. 270 exactly from Brainwave coming out. Let's see that. And just like that, a Goodra VStar is taken off the table. You know, one of the beefiest attackers that you can get for the Lost Zone deck. Just saying, look, you fold to Reversal Energies. Those reversal energies not doing much for them right now. But, you know, it's not over yet. Flower selecting, classic into the Sableye. Double, look at that Iono. Saving our Gardevoir player from what seemed to be a just okay hand. Fog Crystal Screamtail in hand. Interested to see where this goes. I do not believe the Gardevoir player is playing Cape. So it is just a Screamtail. Yeah, it seems like there is no Cape from the Gardevoir player. So Screamtail just doing Screamtail things, knocking out problematic things if needed. If not, probably just not hitting the bench. One energy left in deck, I believe, from what we saw. So if we get a Shining Arcana here, there's a very low chance that something actually hits. So I believe what our Gardevoir player is doing is saying, look, I'm going to use this Shining Arcana to try to draw 2 cards. Oh, but we do hit the energy, which is not really what our player wanted. Our player wanted to draw maybe an Iono or something of the sort. It's a tough call where you put this energy. But you have to play it. There's the Greninja. Here's another Shining Arcana. No energy left in deck, so it is all free. That Psychic Energy being distributed as much as possible, possibly to get the Cresselia attack again to knock out that Sableye. It is so important that Sableye does not stay on the board, because Sableye attacks do make it so that any of these engine pieces from the Gardevoir player are going to be gone, extinguished out of here. And look at that, there's the knockout. Flower selecting coming from the Lost Box player. And this is where the Gardevoir deck kind of gets the hardest, right? Hardest to play is when you're just running out of cards and you don't know exactly what to do, so you're just trying your best to get every single knockout as possible, planning as far ahead as possible as well. $16 cards left in the Lost Box deck. Soon going down to 15, getting that Radiant Greninja. In other lists, a lot of people use the Radiant Greninja as a possible attacker that you can kind of accelerate onto. Let's see, there is that Water Energy that could go on to the Radiant Greninja. But it doesn't look like there are that many good targets on the bench to knock out. This is really where that Sableye matters, right? You get one prize here, one prize there. But that Collapse Stadium seems to be hurting a lot the Lost Zone player, the Lost Box player. Getting stuck with Comfeys, Cramorant on the bench is your only real attacker. And not being able to get another Goodra out onto the bench. And there's an argument maybe that you don't get the Goodra out onto the bench. There's that Iono coming off the top. I'm very interested to see what the Gardevoir player does here, if there is another way to go forward with this. Looks like that they might be getting ready to Shining Arcana, but there's no energy left in deck, right? So you're just using it as a draw. Yeah, there's no energy nor no psychic Pokemon left in the deck. It looks very, very scarce there. Maybe a boss's orders might be one thing that you're going for, but not much else. This is where the Gardevoir is, you know, kind of... Oh, maybe that Turo coming down? Maybe there's a setup with Screamtail coming in as well down the line, but Curlia coming out as well, getting a refinement. Maybe we'll have some sort of refinement plus... Oh, there's a boss's orders, but not exactly what's needed right now. Maybe the Screamtail comes down for the last prize next after this, but for the time being, we are going to try to get a retreat. Oh, well, there is the idea that, you know, using Cresselia, you can get another knockout on, like, a Comfy or something of the sort, and then you have Screamtail, you have Gardevoir as a backup. Man, the Gardevoir player must be eating good right now. Just being able to spread that damage as needed, get the knockouts as needed, leaving a bench spot open as well for if anything else happens in the game. And there we go, the knockout on the Comfy. Huge here. And there's the Screamtail backup, so as long as this Gardevoir EX lives, the Lost Zone player is in for a poor time. Artisan coming down, expanding the bench away from that collapsed stadium again. Searching to see if there's any Pokemon left in deck for them to get. Their deck has 5 cards left in it. There's that energy going to discard their deck with 3 cards left in it. Drapion V coming down. Maybe just as a dark attacker if needed. Mirage Gate possibly coming onto the Drapion V. Yep, there's 2 energy going onto the Drapion V. Another Mirage Gate coming down. Let's see if they have the energy for it. Probably 1 there. Yep, moving all around, getting everything ready. Let's see if there's the boss's orders coming down too. Or is it just a straight knockout? Yep, there's the boss's orders onto the Gardevoir EX. Getting this knockout is huge here. Now, but unfortunately for our other players, right? There's the boss's orders attach. Our Lost Box player, unfortunately, did not, you know, made them have it, but they did not have it. As long as our Gardevoir player does not accidentally click Moonglow Reverse, which has happened to me before, they get the win, and with that, they will take their final prize card. And that is it for top 8, the first round of top 8. Guys, that was exciting to see. Gardevoir versus Goodra, both great games to watch. We will be right back as we get ready for another game as well. Right now, guys, we are waiting for the last match of top 8 to be finished, and then we will move on. If there are any other streams, we will watch the next game. So hold out with us. Guys, we are, if you guys are interested in watching any other Pokemon content, check out the Shuffle Squad's YouTube channel where you can see video uploads multiple times a week. If you like competitive decks, if you like top tier content, you want to know anything about the competitive meta, you want to know some cool decks, you want to watch some gameplays from people like Zach Lesage, go check it out. PJ would be happy if you go see it. So enjoy some time, guys. We will be watching more gameplay in a second. And just like that, we're going to go into the next match. We are watching Gardevoir versus... I'm trying to see what... It looks like just Charizard, straight up Charizard. So give us 2 seconds as we finish getting everything prepped and we're ready to go. And we will turn on the coverage then. Thanks, guys, for holding on with us today as we get everything up and running for some more top 4 awesome Pokemon competitive play. And here we are in round 2. Here we go with the Battle VIP Pass. Guys, hold on 1 second. We're having a little bit more technical difficulty. 1 second, please. Okay, sorry about that. Here we go. We are back with the play currently. Here we have concealed cards from the Gardevoir player. Going and grabbing that Ralts right away, setting up 3 Ralts onto the bench. And like that, grabbing a Curlia that will eventually go onto the bench as well, getting that refinement out ASAP. Seeing maybe if we could get that Mirage Step Curlia, but if not, taking some Ralts and being able to bring some stuff out ASAP as well. It's always interesting to see what comes out of these lists on the late night, because I have not seen a list like this Charizard before. Charizard playing Mew into the active. Rare Candy evolving that Pidgey up to Pidgeot. Huge here. Charizard EX is huge into the Pidgey engine, being able to find cards that they need to go forward as soon as possible. Pidgeot is just such a great card in all these decks. And Avery coming out too, making the Gardevoir player discard a card. Well, I know we have gone blank for 2 seconds, folks. I am just fixing a quick setting. Okay, we are all set. Infernal Sovereign coming, Infernal Rain coming out from that Charizard EX, ramping 2 energy onto folks. And, you know, trying to get that quick knockout with Charizard EX. Charizard EX being one of the premier decks where you just attach and you just attack. And, you know, you say, hey, can you knock out my Pokemon with 330 HP? And also my attacks get stronger the more prize cards you take. Always rough for Gardevoir to get around that 330 HP, as well as the dark typing as well. Let's see if the Gardevoir player can get out of this one. Using that refinement, discarding an energy, I believe. Or nope, yep, discarding an energy to get some more cards. You know, you always want to see as many cards as possible using that refinement. And a rare candy coming down, possibly evolving into the Gardevoir EX or maybe even the Shining Arcana Gardevoir. You're kind of hesitant trying to give your opponent prize cards putting down that Gardevoir EX, so you want to try to put it out as late as possible when needed. I wonder if this is a moment that they believe that they need it. Yeah, there's this Gardevoir EX coming down, trying to ramp some energy, get some things going. Evolving that Kirlia as well, saying, I'm going to not get bricked out by this Iono no matter what happens. Here we go with the draw here. Unfortunately, this kind of seems like a weird situation, right? You don't really have an attacker that's good enough to be able to deal with that Charizard EX. Unfortunately, you know, when you play against the Charizard EX decks, one of the things that you want to do is you want to be able to knock them out before they get to Charizard EX. You also want to play, you know, a lot of players have been playing De-Evolution TM to make it so that when they rare candy, you can at least deal with the Charizard after putting some damage on it. Our Gardevoir player are wondering if they should take the Ralts off the Fog Crystal, but either way, I believe that the Ralts is the correct way to go. Screamtail coming down now too. This is always the hardest part. You go, man, what do I do in this situation? And I believe the answer is put energy out as soon as possible. There comes the retreat for the Screamtail. I wonder what the Screamtail is going to do for a knockout. Getting that level ball to check what is in your deck and be able to see if you can remove other stuff from it as well. Refinement Kirlia onto that Ralts. Trying to draw into some answers here. Unfortunately, this is where you're kind of hard stuck, right? You go, man, what do I do in this situation? This matchup does not seem to be in my favor currently, but being able to put as much damage counters on the Screamtail as possible will allow for possibly a knockout onto the bench. 80 damage on that Screamtail. Let's see where that Scream goes to. 160 going on to the Pidgeot, which seems to be a very good choice here, especially because of the fact that it stops them from being able to search, but at the same time, you may want to stop that Charmander from coming out and becoming a Charizard. Oh, that boss's order is coming out. Looks like that Charizard might be getting the boss's orders to take out that Gardevoir EX. While that is disappointing, at the same time, being able to put extra damage places with Screamtail is huge. And getting one more use of Screamtail is very, very good. But it may not be enough to save them. Here's that Fire Energy going onto that Charmander. And ouch, here comes that Gardevoir with the Dark weakness up against that Charizard EX. Unfortunately, it is not looking very good for the guard player. In this case, I believe the only thing you can do is just hope that you draw better and that you're able to knock out stuff with Screamtail. But without the cape that Screamtail has been used, that a lot of players are playing, Screamtail can just not hit those numbers, right? So maybe you go Collapse Stadium, discard your hand away, hope that you get better stuff. It is always a hard position as a Gardevoir player into something that is darkness based or dark type based. Curlia coming out into hand, which makes sense, right? You want to get yourself those extra refinement draws if you can do so. Always love to see Charizard in a tournament as well. Deck is very cool and very straightforward, and you can do a lot of cool things with Charizard, such as the Pidgeot. The Rotom V is something new that I had never expected Charizard to play, but I completely understand it, right? There are turns where you just can't attack and you just need to draw. And being able to just simply draw cards with Rotom V is huge. Unfortunately, a lot of that energy is stuck on Screamtail as well, so Screamtail will need to get knocked out to get that energy into the discard. But I believe that at this point, you just need to hope that you can get a Gardevoir EX onto the bench again to do something here. But unfortunately, the Pidgeot needs to be dealt with, right? So you get a Pidgeot, if you don't deal with the Pidgeot EX, then you're going to get into a point where, you know, your opponent is going to say, hey, look, I'm going to, every turn, I'm just going to find a boss's orders. We're going to take out your thing. But there is that counter catcher, as well as a reversal energy in hand, which is huge here. Unfortunately, they did not find the boss's orders just yet. Or not the boss's orders, I apologize. They did not find the Gardevoir EX just yet. There's the Ultra Ball that gets you into the Gardevoir EX. But if you could avoid using it, I believe this player would. That's 160 damage to one Pokemon on the board. Maybe it goes down onto that Charmander again. Get another free prize card. Screamtail gets knocked out, and then you just hope and pray that you can get a little bit further with those reversal energies and that Gardevoir with Shining Arcana. Cresselia coming out, which is very huge too. Cresselia very good at being able to remove those damage counters off your own Pokemon. But I wonder what we will see here from this. Charizard's just doing what Charizard does, man. You attach energies, you attack, you get the knockouts on Screamtail. You know, it is unfortunate how that play goes, but, you know, there's nothing else you can do about it. Quick search coming out from the Pidgeot EX. I wonder what card they are going for here. Maybe they're going for another boss's orders. Maybe they're going for another Oh, Arvin coming out, which is pretty good here. Being able to find more cards that you need. Let's see what Arvin finds for the Charizard player. Failed to find on the Arvin. Interesting. No tool nor item card for them to find. Counter catcher ready. Maybe they were looking for a nest ball of some sort. Charmander being played here with the fire energy onto the Charmander. A lot of times just the one prize for one prize attackers are good enough. But not enabling the counter catcher is huge. But the double reversal energy coming out of the Gardevoir might be enough to get the knockout here. But the only other problem is that the player has to be very conscious about just another Charizard EX being put into play because of the Pidgeot's ability. But even if that does happen, maybe we get double reversal energy in the future. We'll have to hold out and see. I think the Guardy player is doing very well here in making sure that they do not put down a 2-prizer, because if they put down a 2-prizer, they can easily get out-tempoed. This is very difficult for the Gardevoir player to do, because as I'm sitting here, I go, man, I have no clue what I am doing in this case either. But taking the Pidgeot out is probably the best play. There's also an argument down the road here that, you know, you just try to go for as big hits as possible. Knowing that the Gardevoir might get knocked out, right? You put it in the active, you use it as the attacker, you're good to go. 2 cards left in deck from the Gardevoir player. That Iono is going to come in handy down the line. Especially knowing what's left in your list. All that damage coming out onto the Gardevoir does not seem to really hurt it too much. Especially because they are going for the knockout, especially with that reversal energy. And the best part here is getting the reversal energy. Look, there's a path to victory for the Gardevoir here, right? The path to victory is simply going, look, I'm going to return this Gardevoir to my hand, right? I'm going to play this Ralts. You know, I'm going to play another Ralts. I'm going to play a Kirlia. I knock out the Pidgeot, set myself up for a knockout here, right? Get the knockout. This looks like there's a clear path to victory. Get the knockout on the Pidgeot, get 2 prize cards, go down to 2. Your opponent cannot counter catch or anything up. Your opponent could also boss his orders too, though, if needed. But the idea is that you hold those Gardevoir EXs for next turn, and you try to get yourself into a Gardevoir V or something of the sort. You could also use counter catcher as well if that's there. Kirlia in the prizes. This still enables reversal energy, so hopefully there's some sort of knockout situation here. Maybe it's onto the Rotom V? Oh my gosh, is the play to go... Maybe the play is to go... Well, no, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Rotom V comes up. We will see the Gardevoir EX come down. Attach here, retreat. Into the Zacian V. Zacian V will have enough energy on it with that Psychic Embrace ability, as well as an extra Psychic in hand to get the knockout on the Rotom V. Very good play from the Gardevoir player, turning what seemed to be a lost cause into not so much of a lost cause anymore by just tempoing it out correctly, using Turos to their advantage, and making sure that they did not misplay. Always such a hard matchup for them. GG's to the Gardevoir player. Excited to see how this goes in the next round. Currently they are 1-0. Let's see who gets the start here. I believe that the start will go to the opponent here, as they were the loser. I'm excited to see Charizard pop off and do more. Getting all the way to the finals in the late night events tournament is very big, right? Being able to sift through all of these online matches is huge. I'm excited to see what ends up happening next. And with that, Radiant Greninja in the active to start does not feel great, but keeping that Ralts in hand is important. You don't want, you don't want something being moved around. You don't want to give away any information as possible. Maybe you have your opponent feel like they are being greedy by not setting up. There's no downside to playing the Ralts on the bench right away. Let's see where this goes. Another Battle VIP pass coming out. This Rotom V might be very powerful early game, being able to draw on turns that you normally wouldn't draw. Especially on setup decks, right? Getting the Pidgeys and the Pidgeot EXs and the Charizards. And finding your rare candy is huge. So Rotom V being able to draw right off the bat on your first turn is spectacular. We see the Avery here in hand for the Gardevoir player. We get Ralts 1, Ralts 2 coming down. So using that level ball to search. Let's see what we end up getting here. I'm curious as to what we will find. Nothing. No. Well, maybe there's a Curlia that comes into play. Ralts definitely does come into play. There's that rare candy coming out, getting the Pidgeot, which is huge. The Pidgeot being able to enable all types of things. Let's see what ends up being found off that quick search ability. As someone that is a huge fan of Pidgeot EX, I'm surprised that it is not played in more decks, but unfortunately it does require a full rare candy slot to go into, and the other rare candy decks probably would rather play their engine pieces than their quick search pieces, or than quick search for other pieces. So it probably makes sense that Pidgeot is not played in there, but is played in something like Charizard, where the normal deck is just so strong on its own. Rotom V using that draw ability, instant charge ability, to end the turn and draw 3 cards. Rare candy sitting in hand. I wonder if we're trying to figure out whether or not there's a Charizard coming down next turn. Either way, it looks like a Charizard does need to come, is probably coming down next turn because of that Pidgeot. So maybe as the Gardevoir player, you're sitting there going, huh, I wonder if I'm going to be able to, really get myself. Oh, there's the Mirage Step coming down. Okay, that's a pretty good setup, right? You get a Mirage Step into play. Make sure that you can get those Curlias guaranteed no matter what. Get yourself set up for future. In the future. either way whatsoever. And folks, this is just a reminder, if you enjoy this type of content, if you are a late night events enjoyer, feel free to give a thumbs up to the YouTube video. It shows us that you enjoy that type of content and that they can keep hiring me for more content as well. Here we got the quick search, searching for possibly the rare candy or the Charizard or the means to find both. There's that Charizard coming out right away, getting that Infernal Rain onto the active and the bench. Looks like that other Charizard is getting energy onto it as well, just in case. That Collapse Stadium coming down, which is huge. I guess if you're the Gardevoir player, you just get rid of that Ralts and you say, see ya. I guess I'm losing another possibility. And Boss's orders coming out to get that Kirlia knockout. One less refinement on the board. And just like that, quick knockout with the Charizard EX. Using that great attack from the Charizard EX, Burning Darkness. Burning Darkness deals 180 damage and deals 30 damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. Huge scaling attack. Definitely a contender for one of the coolest attacks in the format. Fog Crystal coming down, trying to take a look and see what's left in the list. Being able to also get an energy out of the list as well. And then with that, it looks like we're getting another concealed cards, discarding some cards, getting others into the active. This is always the powerhouse of the Charizard deck, getting a Charizard EX out with another one to threaten with that Pidgeot EX. But we've seen the Gardevoir player come out of worse situations like this. Let's see what happens with the Super Rod. Super Rod shuffling back in the Kirlia pieces, making sure to leave the energy in there for future hits. Searching for the Kirlia with the level ball, evolving right here to get another refinement ability. I wonder what our opponent is looking for. Maybe it is just a Gardevoir. That is not Gardevoir EX. Maybe it's another. There's so many different things that it could be. And I think that no matter what, trying to knock out that Pidgeot is one of the most important things here. We'll see the retreat into the Screamtail. I wonder if the Screamtail is going to get attempt to get a knockout onto that Charmander to avoid a second Charizard from hitting the board. Because what's worse than one Charizard to deal with as Gardevoir? It's two Charizards. The Charizard and the backup Charizard to deal with. And all that energy and damage counters coming onto the Screamtail, getting that up to 160 damage to anyone on the bench. Let's see where that Roaring Scream hits. Probably going to hit that Charmander, but it's going on the Pidgeot. The idea is to get Pidgeot off the board. Quick search is way too strong, being able to find anything you want, and a lot of these Charizard lists are only running one Pidgeot. Let's see if that is still the case in this matchup. I believe that they are running two, but the fact that they will delay it by having to get a rare candy and everything else set up is huge. Boss's orders bringing up that Gardevoir EX. I hate to see it, but this is, you know what? This is just par for the course, right? You're gonna start this prize trade, make it a little bit harder for, you know, our players to catch up. And that is one Boss's orders out of the list. In a deck that plays 3 Boss's orders, you know, you always have to hang on to the edge of your seat, wondering if they're going to draw their next one. Refinement coming out of the Gardevoir player, looking for a way to get out of this, discarding a Psychic Energy in hopes to get something that helps them a little bit better. Evolving this Kirlia into a Gardevoir EX might be the play here. But at the same time, it makes it so that the board's a little bit vulnerable. But at the same time, you have to add that health padding one way or another just in case something else comes down. There's that Lost Vacuum to get rid of that Collapsed Stadium if needed. Shining Arcana Gardevoir is there. Level Ball has no targets. Refinement coming down. Discarding the Ultra Ball. Get that Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Shining Arcana gonna come out, see if there's any energy left in deck. Ooh, nope, no energy there, but the Pal Pad's huge. Pal Pad keeps some stuff back in the game, like getting another Turos if needed. Turo helping the Gardevoir player from losing another Gardevoir EX if needed down the line. But when you're in this case where your opponent has 3 prize cards and you're sitting there with a bunch of stuff, you're always a little bit worried. Definitely the Gardevoir player does need to find some sort of reversal energy to get the big knockout onto Charizard EX. But at the same time, you wonder whether or not you need to knock out that Pidgeot. Pidgeot's quick search ability allowing the player to search for any card and put it into their hand without having to reveal it is huge. Gets you your setup, gets you your rare candy, gets you almost anything you need in the situation. Such a great card in the current standard format. Cresselia probably not being the thing that you really want a Lost Zone here, but at the same time, right, Cresselia is not really doing much. It will help you get picks off weird stuff in the deck, but at the same time, I'd be a little bit worried. Three energy in the discard pile for our Gardevoir player. It's always hard figuring out what you want to bench, whether or not it's the correct player or not. Thinking ahead, saying, man, do I have enough stuff here to really keep my opponent out of the game? Roaring Scream possibly coming down, maybe taking out that Pidgeot. The goal, oh, softening up the board a little bit. I see. I wonder if our... Oh, there's the rare candy, getting the second Charizard EX. I wonder if our Gardevoir player says, you know what, if I'm going to, lose out overall in the prize matchups, I better soften stuff up to get a 1-2 knockout. If my opponent has a boss's orders, they have the boss's orders no matter what. So it does not matter in the long run. Here comes the knockout on the Gardevoir EX. And that's 1 prize to 6. With the Charizard player in the lead. Unfortunately, both Charizards are ready to attack. Even if one gets knocked out, it is not looking great for the Gardevoir player. At this point, you kind of have to sit here and you have to wonder, what do I do? How do I get out of this? 1 prize card left. Your attacks could easily knock out my 1 prizes. Moving that Screamtail and all those energies into the discard is huge. But at this point, there's no coming back from that 1 prize, 2 prize, or 1 prize, 6 prize cards situation. It is not fun at all. Going into round 3 then, Charizard versus Gardevoir. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It's always rough to figure out, right? In that situation where your opponent has 3 prize cards, 2 prize cards, 1 prize card, it's always rough to get out of when you have 6. We see the Gardevoir player possibly going first here. First mulligan coming out of the Gardevoir player. Always a rough situation when you give your opponent extra cards. Hopefully both of them have to take mulligans. Unfortunately, that's just not how she goes. Hopefully our Gardevoir player gets a very good start here, but this start is just good enough. We see the level ball and the fog crystal start, but it may not be enough here. And the Pidgey start from the Gardevoir player, or from the Charizard player, is huge. Ralt's coming out here. We're gonna maybe see a fog crystal for another attacker, maybe. This is such an awkward hand from the Charizard or from the Gardevoir player, because you go, man, what am I willing to discard? What am I willing to keep in hand, not keep in hand? Things of the sort. Do you hold on to the level ball? Do you say, hey, level ball's going to get me Kirlia, which I'm going to try to use to get out of this situation? Or do I set up another Ralts hoping that I get something? It is a very valid choice to say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to end my turn. But I think when your opponent is in this situation where they only start Pidgey, you need to try to take advantage of this. Double checking counter catcher, making sure that you have the text right on it. 3 Kirlias in there. Mirage Step Kirlia as well. I wonder if we're going to get a Mirage Step play next turn, just kind of to fill the board and get everything set up. Question is, what energy do you get here? Do you get anything else? I think the Ralts is the play. You go Ralts this turn, end your turn. Hope your opponent does not have much to set up with. But with Battle VIP Pass in the format, your opponent could explode with the amount of stuff that it could play. So let's cross our fingers and see what type of game is coming out now. There's that first Battle VIP Pass of the game. Probably getting a Rotom V and a Charmander. Or 2 Charmanders if the opponent is having an issue with it. Let's see what happens here. Yep, 2 Charmanders, which is very smart to get this stuff set up. Are we going to see a Pidgey knockout? Or is the Pidgey going to retreat? Luminion V. I wonder if we're getting an Iono or something of the sort. Luminous Sign coming out. Arvin is a very good choice here. Arvin getting that route to that rare candy if needed, as well as maybe a Battle VIP Pass to call that away from the deck. But a rare candy plus a Forest Seal Stone, interesting. Forest Seal Stone going onto the Luminion. One of the reasons why Luminion is a great choice to play in a lot of these decks, it can also, not only does it find you your supporter, but it also holds your Forest Seal Stone to be able to allow you to search for whatever card you need in the list. Double Pidgey coming out here, Call for Family Help happening as well. This is anyone's game right now. You know, even though the Kirlia Mirage Step is very, very strong, going up against a Charizard with a full board is very strong too. If you had to tell or ask me who I thought was going to win, I would not be able to tell you. This is a very interesting gameplay that is going on right now. I hope you guys are enjoying this late night events EU number 157. Semifinals, Charizard EX versus Gardevoir EX. Forest Seal Stone using that ability once per game, using the VStar ability to find a card from your deck, as long as it is attached to a V Pokemon. Do not need to reveal that card. Rare candy coming out, grabbing that Pidgeot, evolving into the active. Which is interesting, right? There's an argument that you could always evolve it onto the bench, retreat the active, but that Pidgeot always does have free retreat, so there's no reason to have to do that. Avery coming down, knocking out those 2 Raltses off the bench, allowing the Charizard player to draw 3 cards right away. Looks like that Charmeleon might be coming down here just to, you know, play around some de-evolution whether or not it's in the list. And remember that this is an open list event. So we know that there is no de-evolution in the Gardevoir players list. But Charmeleon coming down to guarantee the Charizard next turn is huge. Especially because a rare candy has already been used and that Kirlia is knocked out from the attack that discards the stadium in play. Double Super Rod for the Gardevoir player seems pretty strong with the counter catcher here, right? So you say to yourself, hey, am I willing to knock out of everything to knock out, right? Do I knock out the Charmeleon? Do I knock out the Charmander? Do I try to set up a knockout on the Pidgeot? And the answer is, who knows? There's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a lot of moving pieces. There is no optimally correct play. I mean, there probably is, but I would not be able to tell you right this very moment. Discarding that level ball here. Level ball not really needed at the moment. Evolving that Gardevoir into the active. Hopefully trying to get that Pidgeot knockout as soon as possible, but there is a boss's orders that there is access to just in case. The idea is that if you can knock out that Pidgeot as soon as possible, you will be on easy street, making it so that you don't have to worry about a setup of double Charizard. Now the question is, right, when do you play Gardevoir EX? When do you ramp into the active? Right, is there a correct thing to boss's orders here? Especially with that reversal energy? And getting the quick knockout on the Charmeleon. Looks like after this we will have access to the Palkia player in Top 4's stream, which is very cool to see. I love seeing that water-based deck that can come out. Another Charmander coming onto the bench, getting ready to set up for another Charizard if needed. And this is where the Guardy player is going to start to sweat a little bit, right? You have to worry about, you know, what's getting knocked out. If things need to really, like, what is your priority target here, right? Is it the Pidgeot? Is it the Charizard? And it's probably the Pidgeot. Only reason is because the Pidgeot has a way less HP, well, 50 less HP than the Charizard EX. Lost City coming into play, stopping that Gardevoir EX, the Gardevoir from being reused. Ralt's coming into the active. If I am the Guardy player, I'm a little bit worried. Ralt's looking to refine, the Kirlia looking to refine those energy away, get them into the discard so that they can get ramped right down the line. Worker coming into play to discard that active. The counter catcher is live if needed. Now the question is, where do you attack here and how do you attack? No rare candy found just yet, so it feels bad getting rid of those Kirlias, but that might end up being the play. One reversal energy and discard. There's probably one more in deck if there. Zacian V is definitely one of the good attackers here in the list if needed to be able to deal tons of damage to get the knockout on some folks. But it might just be Screamtail. Screamtail always does get the work done in a lot of these lists. 2 energy left in the list. This is always the rough play, right? It says, what do you grab here? How many prizes am I willing to give up? What is my current setup? Looks like Screamtail is the choice here. Retreating into the Screamtail. Now the idea here is that if you want to Screamtail because of the mana fee, I'm pretty sure you have to Screamtail whatever you want in the active. So there needs to be a counter catcher if this is where it is going. Hold on tight, folks. Let's see what it's going to be. The question is, what do you do here, right? Do you Scream the active, get some damage onto the Charizard? Or do you just hope that something else can come out and help you out right here? Roaring Scream, dealing 160 to the Charizard. Still a lot of damage that only gives up a one-prize attacker. The only problem is that, you know, if you're the Charizard EX player, you just go, okay, every time this happens, I'm just going to, you know, search for a boss's orders. And boss's orders the Gardevoir EX, because there's no reason not to. Right? Because even the 160, two 160s on the Charizard EX is not enough to get the knockout. 320 is indeed not 330. Unfortunately, that reversal energy is in the discard. Folks, if you want to see the menace that is Charizard EX in action, this is a perfect way to say it. Everything has such high HP, there's no way to just simply walk out of this okay. Understand that the longer that you go through this and the longer that you play against Charizard EX, right? If you do not stop the multiple Charizards from coming down, they will just chain one right after another. If you want to beat the Charizard EX deck, you need to remove the stuff before it is on the field. You need to get rid of the Pidgeot, then you need to get rid of a Charmander. ASAP. Do not let them play their cards. Although I guess that's true for against any deck. As long as you don't let a deck play their cards, you win. Shining Arcana coming out. Wondering where that energy is going to go, if there is any energy, but I believe there's only one energy left in deck, two energies left in deck if there's any. Ultra Ball coming out, getting the discard here. Getting the Curlia. Discarding to Refinement. And the Iono is pretty huge here. Like, if you're stuck and you don't have much to do, might as well Iono. The problem here is that a lot of these really good one-prize attackers cannot keep up with the three-prize attackers. Or, sorry, with the two-prize attackers. At least in this list. It almost feels like that there is no correct choice to choose. Zacian V might be one of the things that you need to attack with down the line, but Zacian V giving two prizes is a huge risk against this Charizard deck. You need to almost get the knockout right away and hope that there is no retribution, which there clearly is with the Pidgeot for the knockout. But here we go with the Gardevoir. Looks like the Gardevoir will be the thing that gets... possibly gets a quick knockout. especially with that reversal energy. But losing that reversal energy will hurt, especially because it is the last one in deck, I believe. There's that brainwave for the knockout. I see that the reversal energy was not used. Very smart. Allows you to get that next knockout if needed. Pidgeot in the active with that free retreat. Quick search going to be a thing that possibly helps Unknown Gamer to get what they need. There's that rare candy and the Vitality Band, just in case the Vitality Band is needed. Are we seeing the Charizard EX? We're seeing the Charizard EX, maybe? Rare candy into rare candy into Pidgeot. Interesting. I wonder if there's another Charizard. Vitality Band on the Charmander. No Charizard EX in list. Is it in their prizes? Or are they in discard, maybe? Who knows? We're going to have to hold on and see what happens. One prize card left. I believe we're going to have to see whether or not... Hold on 1 second, folks. The music seems to be blasting. We'll turn that down just a little bit. Palpad coming in. Boss's orders, Iono. There's a thought that maybe, you know, it's really rough to decide exactly what to do here because Charizard really does just end the game. So you have to play to whether or not your opponent has the Charizard. The thought is maybe you put the reversal energy on the Corellia anyway. But you have to be careful because no matter what you put down, you're in a very bad spot here. You have to find a way to get the Charmander up and to knock it out and also not die to the Pidgeot. So maybe what you do is you go, you know, put, it's very rough either way because the Pidgeot can just find a boss's orders, right? One energy onto the active. Get yourself a Zacian V. I guess the answer is, look, you know, if you have the Charizard, you have the Charizard. 20 damage on for each of these psychic energies onto the active. Zacian V showing why it is a very strong card in this current format. 40 damage to the active. Interesting. Okay, get the knockout from Storm Slash, right? Perfect. So now you just have to hope that there's no Charizard in the list, along with a no rare candy, and then you're fine. It's a lot to ask for. But maybe this Gardevoir player will be able to pull it out. Quick search coming out. 19 cards left in deck for the Charizard player. I'm curious as to see... There's a Professor's Research going for the Hail Mary. Seeing if you have anything to get the win here. Charmeleon is also an option, but I don't know if it'll be enough. 60 damage does need to be done to the active Zacian V to get the knockout. But because it looks like Unknown Gamer is not currently playing right this very second, playing it out right now, maybe they're sitting and they conceded. GG's to the Gardevoir EX player. That is a game that I did not expect the Charizard EX player to win. Folks, you always love to see it, right? You always love to see it. And with that, guys, we are going to get ready to take a look to see if any other matches are currently playing. And we will go from there. I believe that we should have more folks still playing before we get to top. Let me double check and see who is currently playing. Looks like we will have another, I believe we have another top 4 match going on right now. But before we do that, we will be right back as I need to use the restroom. So I will be right back, folks. Hello, folks. I'm currently looking for a match right now, as it looks like that the other match in the finals, or in the semifinals, is currently not being streamed in a way that we can currently watch. So, if you guys are enjoying the content, and you guys want to lend me some of your energy while we wait for this, feel free to check out the Shuffle Squad. If you're not currently subscribed, feel free to subscribe. If you are currently not, if you currently haven't given the thumbs up, give a thumbs up to the video. It really helps us out in the long run. And, if you want to watch more late night events, whether it be the EU event that's going on right now, or the NA event that happens later on tonight, make sure to follow the channel. It'll help us out immensely. I'm going to keep searching for an event. It looks like the finals will probably be Gardevoir versus Palkia. But I need to find a watchable stream for us. as one of the streams that is currently going is unfortunately not working. So I will keep you guys in the loop. Hold on tight. Enjoy some of the Pokemon music and enjoy the ambiance. I will see you guys in a little bit. Hey everybody, we are back and I am here with Vic. Vic, as intended, we are going to do this live as we chatted about earlier. Give me 2 seconds. Let's bring you up as well.
I'm here. Hopefully chat can hear me.
They can hear you. It's just it doesn't look nice for a couple seconds. So
they'll be fine.
Yeah,
They'll be fine.
I think it's fine.
Well, while you're fixing that, I'll just say hi to chat. Sorry for not being here before, but thank you for holding down the fort, Voiddyn. I appreciate it.
Man, play-by-play is rough, man. I'll tell you what. Half the time I'm like, what do I talk about? Oh, I guess I should talk about the game, huh?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of pause time too between plays in Pokemon, unlike some other esports. So it's definitely tricky getting the timing right, switching between the two.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely rough, right? And one of the things giving you an idea of what the finals are looking like, it's going to be Palkia versus Gardevoir.
Yeah, Palkia is a deck that has shown up recently. I believe it got top 4 over in Poland and Gdansk, and it's kind of a new version of Palkia that we haven't seen too much before. I mean, we've seen something similar with, I believe, Barrel at Worlds. I believe Cyrus top 32'd with that or close to it. I'd have to check to make sure, but yeah, it's not something that's been super popular, super common, but it has done well. And it's actually a deck that I recommended to a new coaching student I had the other day who just got into the game, had the Palkia League battle deck and wanted to upgrade it. This is definitely a good option for that. And it seems fairly reasonable into the meta right now.
So my question for you is, Vic, even though we are on the late night squad, if you were looking to, why don't you talk a little bit about coaching and where people can find you if they want to get coaching lessons by you?
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for the plug. I appreciate it.
You know what? You always got to appreciate other people and give them plugs.
Yes. Feel free to message me on Twitter, __ITVIC, or you can add me on Discord as well, ITVIC on Discord. And we can talk about if it's a good fit for you. I have a couple of juniors coaching students that I see every week, but I also have masters coaching students. Usually for the masters, it'll be like a pre-tournament coaching instead of like a weekly coaching thing. And I think you can get a lot of value out of coaching that way too, especially if you are interested in a deck that I'm an expert in, which I would consider Lost Box and Urshifu to be the two right now.
Oh, so you're saying if I want to play Snorlax Stall, you're the person I talk to.
Snorlax Stall, I feel very confident in helping juniors with, but maybe if you're a masters and you already feel like you've played a couple tournaments with Snorlax Stall, you feel like it's your jam, I will humbly say that I'm probably not the best coach for that.
So while we figure out everything else and we get everything else up and running, I guess I should ask you, in your professional opinion, if you were a new player to the format, right? Let's say you're coming in brand new, you kind of know Pokemon, but you don't really jive with it just yet. You don't know everything that's going on. What deck do you recommend to new players?
I think first and foremost, you should play what interests you. And I have general recommendations that if nothing is really standing out to you, like I think the best decks in the format that are a little bit simpler to pick up would be, for example, this Palkia deck would be something like Zard the Barrel, maybe Miraidon. That being said, though, if something that's more difficult, like maybe Gardevoir or Lost Box, if something more difficult is what you're gravitating towards, I say just go for it, because I think first and foremost, when you're picking up a new game, the motivation is really key. So picking up something that really interests you and you think is really fun, I think that's the most important, especially for juniors too.
Well, so I used to play a lot of fighting games, right? And one of the things when I used to play fighting games was, a lot of people used to be like, "Oh, don't play this character; it's too rough." It's too hard to play. And I go, yeah, but that's the reason why I wanted to play the game.
Yeah.
Right? And you're
totally.
And you're just like, I don't care if I have to learn all these advanced mechanics, right? I do have to say the one deck that I've recommended people when they first start the game is Mew VMax. Because it's very straightforward on how you attack and how you set up, and it shows you how strong in Pokemon drawing cards is. And it says
that's true.
You just go, hey, I mean, you develop bad habits of using stuff just to use it to dump it, right? But overall, it plays well into most things in the format. It's very strong, and it teaches you like, hey, you know, you learn little nuances. You learn sometimes you just have to attack. Sometimes you just have to do certain things. And you don't have the difficulty curve of, you know, something like Gardevoir, where Gardevoir
Right.
can be real good to start, but then you get into games where you know that there's a win, you just don't know how to get there.
Yeah, I that makes a lot of sense. I do think Mew is a good recommendation, and I do think that the game plan for Mew typically is pretty simple. You don't have that many attackers and so on. Especially if you're playing DTE Mew, you only have one attacker.
Right.
But there is a lot to learn still about the sequencing and about thinning your deck and about how many cards you want to draw this turn, what stadium, if you want to play Path this turn, if you want to hold on to the Ultra Ball to draw more cards, or if you want to play it right now to draw more cards immediately. So it's a good balance for sure about basically isolating your variables and learning one thing at a time.
Right, and because of the fact that even, I know this sounds really weird, but even if you don't do well with Mew, you can fall back into victories. Like you can like land, you know, fall
That's
over
true.
and still win the game. You know,
Yeah.
you could be like, well, I accidentally, you know, I have no cards left in my deck, but I get the knockout here, right, and stuff like that. So, but it does look like, as we are waiting, that there is a match coming up. We are going to be watching from the Gardevoir player's side of the Gardevoir versus Palkia matchup. So we're going to jump over there, folks, and I will see you guys in a second. Alrighty, and we are back. And with that, we're going to be jumping straight. Oops, not yet. Technical difficulties, 2 more seconds. But Vic, who are you looking at wins this match in the Gardevoir versus Palkia matchup?
So I'm taking a look at these deck lists, and the Palkia deck that got to the finals today is a little bit different than the top 4 lists that got there in Poland. And the main difference is that Palkia. Wait, is it Palkia versus Gardevoir? That's the matchup, right?
I believe it
or
is.
is it?
Oh, wait, hold on.
No, it's Guardi Mirror, I think.
Oh, is it a Guardi Mirror? I thought that the Palkia. All right, never mind.
I think Palkia lost in top 4, but it was there. It was up there.
Okay, you know what it was? I believe I saw it as a game up, but it looks like it's a Gardevoir mirror. Always fun to watch, right? The better player is not always the person who wins the Gardevoir matchup. Sometimes it's just who gets the setup the fastest. Especially in these cases.
I do think there is an edge to be had by being the better player for sure. And I think part of that reason is because of the strong comeback potential of the Gardevoir deck. There's obviously multiple copies of Iono. There's the reversal energy, which can make big plays happen, like knock out their Gardevoir EX for the comeback. Pre-reversal energy, actually, when Gardevoir EX first came out, I think the mirror was actually way less skillful, way less interactive, where, like you were saying, it's very much just about that turbo, whoever gets set up first. But here, it's a little bit more interactive. That being said, we don't see the best start from, I don't remember this player's name, Egg Fried Renge?
I believe so. It is Egg Fried Renge, or I believe they just go by Renge right now, but...
Okay.
I guess for the time being, we'll say Renge versus Irish. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, Renge here on our side, the side that we're spectating, doesn't have the best start just yet. We're looking at maybe 1 Ralts to their opponent's 3. So what you were talking about, that faster start being a factor, I think may come into play here as they play down the Ralts, as they play down the Manaphy, and potentially this Iono.
You know, one of the things that you messed up earlier as the Iono's resolving, not messed up, the thing that you missed earlier was we saw live a Mew VMax who prized all their Mew VMAXs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was game
That's
1 of
so
their
funny.
3 match. It's so sad to watch because they were struggling to set up. They didn't see that they prized all their Mew VMAXs, and they got through. and then they looked through their deck real quick while I was setting, like, you know, while I was talking through something else, and I wasn't paying attention. They just closed their deck and conceded, and chat was just like, yeah, by the way, they prized all their Mew VMAXs. I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah, I think the odds of that, I don't remember what they are. Let me look it up real quick so chat knows. But it's astronomically low. It was 3 Mew VMAX, right?
Yeah, it was 3 Mew VMAX. So it's like it's 1 in 60 plus 1 in 59 plus 1 in 58.
The odds are roughly 1 out of 1,711, or 0.06%.
They should play the lottery today, if anything.
It's quite low. It's quite low. It's not exactly that. The odds are for prizing Pokemon are a little bit weird because of the mulligan rules. So like you have it means that basic Pokemon are less likely to be prized because they're forced to be in your hand, while other cards are more likely to be prized. But it's almost exactly that. It's very, very close. So it's very low to prize all 3 Mew VMAX. And it's actually so low that like we see these Gardevoir decks, both Gardevoir players only play 2 Gardevoir EX, despite that being such an important attacker for the deck. Sorry, important setup Pokemon for the deck. You almost need it pretty much every game.
And I will say this. Yeah, it's huge. I will say this, though. Renge has been... Renge won a very difficult Charizard EX matchup before we jumped into this matchup here. Renge, like, came back from behind multiple times in games that I said, I do not believe Renge will win this game. Renge won the game. So...
Yeah, Gardevoir has that kind of crazy ability to come back from really, really bad situations. We see Irish here using that Psychic Embrace, was able to hit actually double rare candy onto 2 Gardevoirs with the Kirlia Refinement on the bench. This is basically the best start you could potentially hope for as Gardevoir EX. They are going to be able to take a knockout here. The only thing that they would rather be able to do is to hit something like a Boss's Orders onto that lone Ralts, but that's not going to happen because there's only 1 Boss's Orders in the deck, so very unlikely. But overall, still a really, really strong start, and this is kind of like an unusual start, actually, given that a lot of these Gardevoir decks have been running Mirage Step Kirlia and have been kind of banking on that being the play. Maybe some of them not even running the VIP pass, even because you're just hoping for Mirage Step to get you through the game. Irish showing the strength of what the VIP pass version can do when you hit the cards that you need.
And it's crazy, right? Because not only do you set up 3 Curly onto the bench, you have a huge setup overall of just, like, great things. Like, great, like you can set up any of your Gardevoirs in any spot. It's just too good.
So we see the worker come through, and something that I want to mention is that we actually saw the level ball getting drawn, which was great. You know, you can level ball into Mirage Step Kirlia potentially. That's kind of what you want. Unfortunately, though, along with that level ball came another Refinement Kirlia, meaning that if we saw the Mirage Step get grabbed here, you would only be able to put 1 Kirlia onto the bench from your deck because 2 of them are in your hand. So this essentially is kind of like having prized the Mirage Step. You're not able to do it really effectively, and now your opponent is going to be able to go down to 4 prizes before you take 1.
At a certain point, you just use that level ball to get the Refinement Kirlia, right? Because that's just almost better in this situation.
Yeah, they ended up getting a 3rd Ralts, which I guess makes sense because they have 2 Kirlia in hand, so they're gonna go for 2 Kirlia this following turn and potentially see where they can go from there. Maybe a rare candy into a Gardevoir, and then evolve the Kirlia that they had last turn to try and get a knockout here. We did see a Turo from Irish just now picking up that Mew. I'm kind of curious about that. I wonder if they could have picked up the Gardevoir EX instead, because it will be in danger if it stays inactive. It's not likely to get knocked out, but it can definitely get knocked out with a little bit of luck here from Renge.
And this is where, like, prize tempo is so important, right? I think Gardevoir EX is, like, the perfect attacker to bring up front here because it's so beefy and it just takes so many hits. It does not matter if it gives 2 prizes because it's going to take so many more prizes before it gets knocked out.
Irish is certainly hoping that that's the case. It's possible to knock it out this turn, but looking at this hand, it's not close yet. You would need a rare candy into the Gardevoir EX. I think you would need more energy in the discard pile as well. I'm not sure how many are in there. We're going to see the first refinement of the turn before any cards are played. We'll see if we can get there. it's still possible, and I think that's what we're hoping for here. 2 cards drawn, Gardevoir, Shining Arcana drawn, and that is one of the pieces you need. You also do need a rare candy though, and I don't remember how many energy are in there, but
I don't know if
potentially
there's
some energy as well.
Yeah, we were getting too excited talking about like possible plays and ways out and things of the sort. I'm interested to see, especially because the counter catcher's there too, but it looks like I at least saw 3 energy in the discard, so it's good to know.
Okay, so if there's only 3, I believe we're probably not going to see a knockout onto the Gardevoir EX here, but we can.
Oh, it looks like there's 6. Okay.
Okay, 6. So, but there's no rare candy anymore, unfortunately. So we can only evolve a Shining Arcana unless we Shining Arcana into rare candy. But we did just Super Rod, so there's not a high odd.
Oh, okay.
We do see a Psychic Energy off the Arcana and a second counter catcher. So we evolved the only Curlia that was able to evolve here, which does mean you don't have access to Psychic Embrace anymore because there's no rare candy, nothing else can evolve into Gardevoir EX, which means that in this case we might have to just attack with Brainwave for that 150 and use maybe Counter Catcher to bring up a valuable target like that baby Gardevoir on the bench.
Yeah, and I think getting rid of that Shining Arcana just will be huge overall, and you get a prize off of it anyway, and you're still in counter zone, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think Irish here has the lead, but it's still anyone's game. You are knocking out 1 of 3 draw Pokemon on Irish's bench right now. If you keep up the pressure, keep on knocking out those Curlias, could potentially get there. And actually, we're bringing up Screamtail, and I don't think that Curlia can evolve, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not
but
quite sure. Maybe it can?
Maybe it can.
No,
it can't. That's got to be a misplay, right?
It is
because
definitely
now you can't,
a misplay.
You can't attack with the Screamtail at all. You cannot use that Psychic Embrace, so now you're just going to have to pass.
Part of me wonders if you're supposed to counter catcher up the other Curlia just to put something else in the active.
It depends on how many energy are in the discard, right? I think if there's any, even if there's 0, it's probably pretty easy to discard a couple just to get it to retreat.
And there's 10 cards in hand too, so even if one, even with one way or another, like this is, like Irish is just so much it.
I think something to be able to come back in this game, I think you're gonna need something like an Avery into Counter Catcher, knock out one of the draw Pokemon, and then maybe next turn Iono them and hope that you were able to take out enough of these draw Pokemon that your opponent doesn't find what they need. Irish having 2 Curlias and 1 Shining Arcana Gardevoir and the Radiant Greninja, using those refinements back to back to back as we speak. It's kind of a powerful draw engine that's set up here, and it's hard to be able to come back from a deck that can draw so many cards.
Well, the deck almost just doesn't care if it gets... like, when you get this set up, you don't care what your hand is. You just go, okay, I can't find this thing. I'm going to keep searching.
Yeah, and we see the Screamtail being brought up here for Irish, retreated into Psychic Embrace onto... Let's see how many energy they go for. Probably the full 4 to do 160 to a Gardevoir. We saw Manaphy wasn't played down. I don't know if there was a chance to. I think Artisan was discarded, was chosen as one of the discard options off an Ultra Ball or something. And
I believe so.
And that means that this Gardevoir with a reversal energy even is going to be knocked out, and that'll make it even harder because reversal energy definitely a finite resource in these Gardevoir decks.
And honestly, I think knocking out the Pokemon with the reversal energy on it is more important than knocking out the Gardevoir, right? Like, even if just removing that, because both decks play Turo. So being able to remove something off the board that, such a finite resource like reversal energy, especially when you're ahead, is huge.
Yeah, I think reversal energy, super powerful. Basically, the biggest reason why this Gardevoir matchup isn't just whoever takes the first prize, but if you're in the lead and you get to eliminate them, then yeah, you basically go back to that default of the faster person wins. We see Super Rod here bringing back Curlia, Gardevoir, and Lumineon. Iono in hand, but no Avery, and this Iono probably not going to stick. Even though you're putting your opponent to 3, it's going to be tough. There's 2 Shining Arcana Gardevoirs and a Refinement Kirlia on the bench.
And, this is unlike when you do it with Lost Box, right? So, like, a lot of people go, oh, hey, Iono into Lost Box may not be that great because they can just comfy stuff, but they're still getting rid of resources to do it. Unlike Gardevoir, which you're like, okay, well, I'm discarding stuff I didn't really need anyway, or stuff that I can just recur with stuff like Super Rod and Palpad, right? So they're not really terribly punished by getting Iono'd here.
Yeah, I do think, in terms of, in other card games, people talk a lot about hand advantage. Mm-hmm. It's not as important in Pokemon because of how powerful the draw is, but in terms of situations where you're trying to disrupt your opponent's hand and put them to a low hand size, it does matter. And both Lost Box, both the Comfy engine, the Kirlia engine, have similar abilities where Kirlia you discard 1, draw 2. Comfy you don't discard anything, you take 1 and you Lost Zone 1, so you get a +1 from the ability. But there is a cost to Comfy where you need to keep retreating them or switching them, whereas Kirlia, that cost is basically free. It can sit on your bench, so definitely more powerful to disrupt Lost Box's hand than a Gardevoir deck.
It's always weird when we have to talk about other stuff during the Gardevoir mirror match because we're sitting here and we're like, look, there's so many small things that the Gardevoir players need to be worrying about, right? Like, I don't feel like Lost Vacuum is probably particularly needed in this mirror match, but a lot of it is just will our player get out of this situation, right? Like, will they be able to overcome?
So we're at 6 prizes to 3, and I think it's going to be real tough. Screamtail coming in right now, going to take a knockout onto a Gardevoir, I believe, but actually just going to retreat maybe, and we'll take potentially a knockout with Cresselia. But the problem here is there's just too much stuff happening on the board right now. Too many attackers on Irish's side of the field. Even if you are able to get a knockout onto that Gardevoir EX, you're not catching up in the prize race. Psychic Embrace onto potentially all the Psychic Pokemon to set up this Moonglow reverse, but man, I would be very surprised if there's a comeback here.
I wonder if, neither deck is playing Cape for Screamtail. Okay. I wonder if that is a mistake. Maybe not a meta mistake overall, but definitely in last game and this game, I've seen Screamtail be, something that could have taken advantage of Cape to knock out key pieces.
I think Cape on Screamtail would be really good in this situation to knock out Gardevoir EX and potentially combine that with an Iono and just hope that your opponent doesn't hit their Super Rod or like prize their Super Rod or what have you. But it is pretty common nowadays that people are taking out that Cape for the Zacian V. Right. And I think it's partially just because the Zacian is more searchable, even though the Cape is potentially more powerful.
Right, because you're not playing like
like Arven.
Yeah, you're not really playing Arven in this format.
Yeah.
You're not playing like Pokestore or Town Shop.
The Town Store, yeah.
So you're not really able to fix that search.
Right. So even though it's a more powerful option, it is harder to get at the time you need it. Ultra Ball away, Counter Catcher, and Manaphy. Irish definitely doesn't need that Counter Catcher. Gonna go down to at least 2 prizes this turn. Manaphy on the bench right now, which means that this Screamtail definitely less effective. We are going to see Cresselia get switched in here, and this combination of Cresselia and Screamtail, something that doesn't get talked about as much, or it wasn't as popular in LAIC, but it's getting more so now because it basically means you can target your opponent's bench pretty much whenever, as long as they don't have both Manaphy and Jirachi.
I'm kind of curious is, with the introduction of stuff like Manaphy and Jirachi and, using it as a counter for Screamtail, how many times we see Counter Catcher really being the clutch thing here to say, I'm pulling your Manaphy into the open, I'm just knocking out your Manaphy, deal with it.
I think that play makes a lot of sense, especially in the Cape versions of Gardevoir, just to threaten a knockout on Gardevoir EX randomly with the Cape Screamtail. And you can even do that play also with Cresselia if they don't have Jirachi on the board. And if they do have Jirachi and Manaphy, then that's also like a good thing because you can then threaten with Avery. So just putting a lot of pressure on your opponent's bench. We see that Irish knows that you know, their opponent plays one copy of that Avery, so they're ahead. They're just not going to worry about benching Manaphy or Jirachi here. Like, you have free access to my bench, go ahead. I'm just going to take prizes the old-fashioned way and beat you that way. Retreat into that Shining Arcana Gardevoir, setting up for a potential knockout here, and making the prize trade more even, but not quite catching up just yet.
And that's one of the hardest parts here, right? You say, like, you know, without that second reversal energy, things feel kind of bad. But you say, look, I'm going to get rid of this Shining Arcana Gardevoir anyway. I'm going to lose it. My opponent's at 2 prize cards. I have to risk something here. I have to knock out this Gardevoir.
I do think Irish could have maybe set up the situation a little bit better, though, because now, basically, where the energies were placed last turn off of the Psychic Embrace does mean that Irish has no great attacker, I don't think, in this situation. Screamtail doing... Actually, Screamtail might do enough to the active. I think it has 40. Sorry, I can barely see that.
I know, it's very, very...
Oh, it's 60. It's 60. So I think Screamtail would be fine to attack with here to follow up. So you can Screamtail the active, knock it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Might want to save it still. We're still an energy short from attacking with this Brainwave Gardevoir. Irish choosing to bring it up. We see Shining Arcana twice. We see Avery come through. Has to keep the Manaphy, I think.
I think it's required here.
Yeah. I mean, in other situations, you might not need to in this matchup because, you know, the Cresselia is kind of a threat, but the Cresselia no longer being a threat does mean that the Manaphy has more value because it actually is protecting your bench now rather than before.
Because Manaphy is very much a deterrent from making your opponent want to play Cresselia or wanting to play Screamtail or both, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, just looking at the situation with Manaphy on the bench, it almost nullifies 2 of their attackers. As long as your main, you know, whatever's in the active spot has enough HP.
Oh, Manaphy doesn't stop Cresselia, though.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking, why am I thinking it did? Not a problem.
Yeah, Cresselia is damage counter, so you have to bench Jirachi for it.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm mixing it up with the Jirachi.
Yes. But that being said, the Cresselia here is not a threat because there's no Gardevoir EX, so there's no Psychic Embrace. That means you can't spread damage. The Cresselia can only really do 20 this turn, which is obviously not enough for anything. So I guess we might just see a retreat into Screamtail happen, but we do see a Rods come down, and we do know that at least 2 rare candies have been played. Oh, actually, we see the energy drawn, so Brainwave coming through, down to 1 prize now. Here, I don't think you can attack with the Cresselia. I think you have to attack with Gardevoir EX.
Right, and I think that's just because Gardevoir EX can just sit there and tank the hits.
Yes,
and just make sure, you know, nothing gets in the way. Maybe the Cresselia is brought up just to be a retreater, just in case.
Yeah, if there's something else you want to attack with, maybe something like the Zacian, you could retreat with Cresselia.
But even the Zacian is a little bit risky.
Yeah, I think this is a really weird board position where your opponent doesn't have access to Gardevoir EX anymore, and you can potentially get rid of that Ralts too to kind of close that as being a route. But I think you do lose to boss this orders still, no matter what, because Screamtail can knock out the Manaphy.
And there's 13 cards in their list, so...
Yeah, I don't think we've seen boss getting discarded just yet. So we really do want to Iono this turn, but we don't want to attack with Cresselia this turn. That I know. We see the attachment onto the Cresselia. We'll probably see a retreat. Shining Arcana added to the hand, just discarding it away, thinning out the deck. There's only 3 cards left in deck, so we actually might see... I think there's actually a little bit too much thinning going on. I'm a little bit worried.
Right.
But we'll see. If that...
Maybe it's to guarantee the counter catcher?
That's true. Well, I think it was guaranteed regardless, because the card on the bottom was in the hand previously, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think it was guaranteed regardless.
I don't think you were supposed to counter catcher here. I think you were supposed to knock out maybe and wait.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the counter catcher was for. Okay, so we're knocking out Ralts. Okay. So this is assuming this play is happening because we're assuming that Irish has access to one more rare candy, and you're trying to eliminate any option of getting Gardevoir EX out, which is pretty reasonable if they are in fact out of rare candy.
The problem is that there's one card left in deck,
Yeah.
and there's no two-prizer on the bench. So
That is true.
if I'm Irish, I just pass the turn.
Okay, I do think that would be a winning play in this situation, but probably you should take a knockout just if you can.
Well,
because
of course,
then you
of
would just
course.
win. Yes.
Well, I'm saying if you can't take
Yes,
the
if you
knockout,
can't.
you just pass your turn.
Right. Yeah. Pass or like maybe
Set
use
up
the
just in
Moonlight
case.
reverse for 20 damage, I guess. Yeah. Totally. Definitely don't Iono, that's for sure.
Right, I think Iono. Yeah, see, there's the concede just in case. But if there's
Yeah.
a two-prize attacker, I don't you don't concede because you
Right.
could still win.
And
But
we see
there's
the concession. I think realizing that they did not have enough time.
maybe if there
Rangers
was
did not
another
have
card
enough
left in
time.
deck, right? One more card would give them the time.
Yeah, it would definitely be possible. It would have to come down to what Irish drew. If they drew into boss's orders, that would be enough to close out the game right then and there, I'm pretty sure. So it wasn't guaranteed either way, but with one card being in the deck, it was guaranteed, I think. And that card obviously not being something that can put cards back in the deck like Iono or
Right.
Palpad or Super Rod.
Right. While we wait for them to get ready, we'll take a quick 2-minute break.
See you soon.
See you in a bit. Hey, folks, we're still trying to find a viewpoint for the final match. Hang out with us, and we will be back soon. Alrighty, folks, and we're back. We have feed again of the Gardevoir versus Gardevoir finals between Orange and Irish. Looks like both are getting set up pretty well with their Mirage Step Curlias.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for putting up with the technical difficulties, but
It's
we
my
did
first
miss
day.
one turn from each player, but it looks like Mirage Step happened for both, given that both players have their Mirage Step inactive and 3 Curlias on the bench. You see refinements come through, third refinement over here for Renge, and this is basically as textbook as a Gardevoir mirror can be at the moment. 3 Curlias on the bench for both players taking their time to set up that Mirage Step, and we'll see how they navigate it. I think if we can get a knockout here from this Moonglow reverse, that would be pretty impactful.
And the thing is that there's no Manaphy coming down. There's no Jirachi. I don't believe that Renge's list plays Jirachi, but it's just saying, hey, look, I don't care if you have Screamtail out. I'm gonna just try to knock out your stuff before it even gets close.
Right. I'm not sure how many Psychic Energy are in the discard, but probably enough given that we see the retreat into the Cresselia. Only 2, so actually not enough. We see the retreat happen. I guess you don't really have anything great to retreat into anyways, but we're only going to be able to do 50 damage. And actually, the fact that this Mirage Step Curlia has 10 damage from, I assume, a teleportation burst was almost really bad.
Right.
Not quite. We are 20 damage short, but it almost made the difference between taking a knockout and not taking a knockout this turn.
I got super excited as soon as I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get a knockout this turn, and then nothing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that doing 10 damage for free when you weren't is actually probably a misplay in that situation rather than just passing. It's rare that that's the case, but in this matchup, I think it is.
I'm curious to see how much work this Cresselia is going to put in, and if it's going to live long enough to actually, take some people off the board.
Yeah, Irish now responding with their own triple refinement. 2 used so far, 1 left to go. Irish probably looking to do a similar play, but actually getting a knockout instead. And if so, they will be put in the lead. They can take a knockout with either Screamtail or Cresselia. Either works. They just need a couple energy in the discard, a Gardevoir EX, and they should be good to go. This Ralt having 50 damage on it does mean that Cresselia is a little bit easier to charge up. You would only need 3 energies and a Gardevoir EX and a Cresselia. But I don't think we quite have it yet. Irish evolving into Shining Arcana Gardevoir, using Shining Arcana to draw 2 more. We'll see what they choose to bench here. And of course, there's always a chance that stuff like Cresselia being prized would cause some issues here. So we'll see if that's
and
the
us
case
not being
in
able to
just a
take a look
moment.
at the lists or at the current prize cards is really rough for us to judge who has the advantage here.
That is true. That is true. but I think we are going to see a knockout. And for the second game, this set, I think we are going to see Irish take a lead. Both players, though, having an extremely strong board setup. We're talking 5 Kirlia/Gardevoir from both players, along with Cresselia. And it basically means if someone can find Avery here, that would be very impactful, I think.
Yeah, I think Avery is going to be the thing that definitely takes over this game, right? Like, you know, you find an early Avery here, especially because of Kirlias and things of the sort. You're just, you know, it's over, especially with the Cresselia being in the active and not on the bench.
That is true. I definitely agree with you there. But will we see the Avery come soon enough? Because, you know, late game you want to hit them with Ionos, right? You don't want to be Averying them if they have a huge hand. So you probably want to do that soon. You could even potentially Luminion for it. I don't know if that's correct, but it's an option. It's probably a pretty reasonable one.
I don't think there's anything wrong with being like, hey, look, I'm going to Luminion, get an Avery now, and then just decide that, look, you know, you're going to be losing access to 2 Gardevoir outlets or Gardevoir evolutions, right? Especially denying the access to refinement on the bench and making someone have to evolve on that specific one is huge.
We're seeing refinement come through, perhaps to try and draw the Avery before having to go into that worst case scenario of benching the Luminion. I think that makes a little bit of sense, but now the Avery has not been drawn here. Now we might see it come through. And obviously benching a 2-prizer, that's easy to knock out in this matchup. It doesn't feel like the best thing in the world, but you are already behind in prizes. So now your win condition is really less about winning the prize race and more about disrupting your opponent so that you can come back and catch up.
Right. I wonder if the play here is to, you know, Avery and then collapse Stadium, getting rid of your Luminion.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think that is pretty solid. Yeah. I didn't even notice that the collapse Stadium was drawn.
They just drew it, so I don't believe it's, you know, that much of a miss.
We do see it getting played, and I think this play like makes a lot of sense. I think sometimes you can get even more collapse value than the discarding a Luminion if you don't expect your opponent to be able to knock it out yet. For example, they might have to play an Avery at some point, and they can save the collapse for like healing off a damaged Gardevoir EX or getting rid of Gardevoir EX on the crucial turn where Irish only has 2 prizes to go. But you have Turo in hand to kind of do that kind of same thing that collapse does. So it's not. I think it's correct here to play that collapse down.
I think one of the things that a lot of newer Gardevoir players run into is they get their psychic energy trapped on their Pokemon in places that they don't want it.
That's true.
I'm bringing this up because the Moonglow reverse play, right? Looking at a random psychic energy being on a Kirlia and then, you know, one being somewhere else, right? You don't have good ways to remove it off. So you get to this point where you're like, oh man, where's all my energy? And you look at your field and they're scattered all throughout.
Right. Yeah, I think it can get pretty awkward if your energy isn't exactly where you want it to be. But we do have enough energy to take a knockout with Miracle Force, and this Gardevoir EX is pretty safe given that both players are at 5 prizes now, so reversal energy is not live.
And honestly, this is where you want to be in the Gardevoir Gardevoir matchup, right? You want to be attacking with your Gardevoir EX because of the fact that, you know, it can eat maybe one attack here or there.
Yes, especially early game.
And it's all about knocking out those Pokemon early because your attackers are your engine pieces. So removing your opponent's attackers off the board also removes their engine as well. So it's very huge here.
We see Manaphy Ralt come through, followed up by an Iono. So that Turo that we were talking about now down to the bottom, unfortunately, for Renge. So we might just see an attack into the Gardevoir EX, set up some damage. Turo would be absolutely massive, but probably not going to get there given that it's all the way on the bottom.
And there's no reversal energy outlet this turn either, so we're not going to see a big swing from the Gardevoir, the Shining Arcana Gardevoir.
Yeah, that's right. I think, you know, if if Irish was behind on prizes and that reversal energy was live, you would maybe be scared of the high roll and getting enough energy onto this Gardevoir to take a knockout this turn and getting rid of knocking out your only Gardevoir EX in play. But because reversal energy is not live, I think it's pretty safe and it's going to tank a hit.
I'm very interested to see what comes out of all this, right? Because of the strong swings this deck can do and all the pieces it can draw into. I feel like, as much as we were saying I was saying earlier, it's whoever gets set up better in the beginning. At a certain point, if everybody's both set up together, it's who can outplay the other and who can predict the other player's outplays.
I also do think disruption will be a key factor in who wins here. This Gardevoir in the active getting loaded up. Sorry, my tongue is tied.
That's
apparently.
Okay.
It's getting loaded up with that Psychic Embrace, up to 7 energy on it, 100 damage on it. An easy knockout for Wrench here. What will they take the knockout with? It is an easy knockout, but it's not as easy as you'd like. You can't do something like Slap for knockout here.
Right, and not just that, but you don't want to put something in the active that's just going to get counter knocked out by Gardevoir EX.
That's true. That's true. So here, maybe you could consider attacking with your own Gardevoir EX if you want to have a Pokemon that could potentially survive a hit, but it's also scary to do so because there's 7 energy loaded on this Gardevoir. They're all going to go to the discard. You would need 8 energy to do 300. And this Gardevoir on the bench can't sustain that many energy through Psychic Embrace. It would get knocked out, which isn't allowed by the rules of Psychic Embrace's ability, but it could get knocked out by something like Azation, or your opponent could get a lucky Shining Arcana and knock out a Gardevoir EX. So I don't actually know what the best attacker here in this situation is. It might be Cresselia, and you just kind of give up. The prize race and get your opponent down low.
And that's one of the coolest parts about like the Gardevoir v Gardevoir matchup. You never really know what the best attacker is in certain cases. You kind of have to be like, well, it's not like Miraidon where like Miraidon has so many different attackers. You go, okay, I know what the best is for this situation. This is very much the deck is so complex and has so many different ways to play that you have to like. You say, I think this is the best for this situation, but I'm not quite sure.
Yes, I do think that theoretically, in almost all situations, there is a theoretical best play, but sometimes the best play is like, this helps you win 1% more than like this other attack.
Right.
So it's so hard to tell sometimes which one is just that much better than the other. And here we see the Gardevoir being evolved up into Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Will that be the attacker of choice this turn? Could potentially be the case.
Reversal energy and counter temperature are live.
Okay, that is true. We could get a knockout onto that Gardevoir EX on the bench and tie up the prize race. Or you could say, hey, I just want to get rid of your draw power actually to set up an Iono for the next turn. I think either is actually pretty reasonable. So we are seeing the Gardevoir EX play come through. We are going to knock it out this turn. Thanks to that reversal energy. Thanks to Brainwave and Psychic Embrace. Tying up the prizes. Eight energy now onto Shining Arcana Gardevoir. Doing a cool 300, which is more than enough given that this Gardevoir EX has some damage from Psychic Embrace previously. Two prizes being drawn for Wrench, and back on over to Irish. Even with that 2-prize swing, Irish is still 1 turn ahead.
Right.
But the bench is looking kind of thin right now. No Gardevoir EX option yet. You would need a Rare Candy, but you don't need the Gardevoir EX this turn necessarily. You can just attack with a Brainwave and set up some Curlias potentially. I don't know if there are any Curlia in deck, but we'll see in just a moment.
I'm interested to see if a boss's order comes out to really soften up that Gardevoir EX that's on the bench.
Yeah, a really interesting and cool play that you can do sometimes in this Gardevoir mirror match is, well, this Gardevoir in the active doesn't quite have enough energy to do the 9 energy play where you actually knock out the Gardevoir EX with the boss's orders, but you are 1 energy away from doing 300, and doing 300 to a Gardevoir EX means that they can't Psychic Embrace to it anymore, which means they can't retreat. So as long as they don't find Turo, they will be stuck in the active, which gives you basically a free turn to do whatever you want and knock out the Gardevoir EX next turn. So that can be a play that happens here. And we actually see Shining Arcana hit. So if we see an attachment this turn, scratch what I just said, you can actually knock out the Gardevoir EX.
Right, we get Shining Arcana, we get an attachment, we get boss's orders. I think Irish is thinking the same thing, right? I can almost one hit. Oh, there's the Iono.
Yeah, there's Iono. Boss's orders would be really, really great here, but unfortunately these Gardevoir decks, they're not built to be aggressive. They really have only 1 boss to work with and 2 counter catchers, so sometimes you can't quite get it the turn you want it. Okay, so both players now down to their final prizes. Also, thin hand size for both players. We see Renge drawing into a counter catcher, which is potentially useful, but maybe not this turn, because I think you do really want to get rid of this Gardevoir that is attacking. You want to make sure that your opponent has to find the Gardevoir EX to keep on the pressure, I think.
And I think so that's a viable play too. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think the counter catcher might be really useful next turn, potentially. Maybe force your opponent to evolve to Gardevoir EX and then go for a huge knockout the next turn. But you do have to attack this turn, and you do have to find an attacker for next turn. And I don't know what those attackers will be. Maybe Cresselia this turn into a Shining Arcana Gardevoir, or Zacian next turn, I think.
I wonder if Turo might end up being used as a way to get a Pokemon out of the active, so that there doesn't need to be damage counters on that Ralts, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we're going for the...
Yeah, I think Moonglow Reverse here will help with that. Just being able to heal your Ralts up, knock out the active Gardevoir. I think Cresselia here makes a lot of sense in terms of what attacker you want to choose this turn.
I'm interested though, right? Because I guess Cresselia is a real good point choice here, but as long as Irish does not play a 2-prize attacker, I think they are in the clear for a lot of this.
I think you almost have to, right? Because you have nothing else charged up at the moment besides this Gardevoir in the active. So yes, it would be ideal not to have to evolve into Gardevoir EX, but there's nothing you can really do. I mean, Reversal Energy won't be live, so you kind of have to.
Looking at Irish's deck list, I'm wondering, they are playing the Zacian V, so that is an out for them as well.
So Zacian, if you knock out this Gardevoir, you can Zacian and Boss and Gardevoir EX, but actually we're going to see Counter Catcher bring up the Shining Arcana Gardevoir and Iono. So we're going to knock out the Gardevoir on the bench now and make it a little bit more awkward by bringing up this Gardevoir. I think I would have maybe liked to see the Manaphy brought up.
Right.
Or I think actually what I would like to see the most was just to hold on to the counter catcher as a resource and maybe go for a big knockout on a Gardevoir EX next turn. So we see lots of cards being played, Refinement coming through, Palpad probably as well.
With 2 cards in the list, I'd hope you Palpad, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's a Palpad and a Super Rod, so I don't think we'll see any deck out shenanigans like we did last game. But it is coming down to the wire. Both players on their final prize cards.
That Reversal Energy in hand is huge, though, here.
Yeah. But I don't know if there's any... Sorry, I just missed it. Did Boss's orders get Palpadded back or no?
No, it did not. It was Avery and Iono.
So I don't know if you can even threaten Gardevoir EX if it comes out next turn, which I think you really want to do. Yeah, I would have liked to see Boss's orders come through or the counter catcher being saved this turn. Oh, but we're going to knock out a Curlia instead of this Gardevoir on the bench. Okay, so this play makes sense even more sense, I think, because now that you have Counter Catcher, this Gardevoir in the active, they don't have any energy to work with.
Right, because they
In the
would need to
discard
rare
pile.
candy. Well, even
So
yeah.
the only way to take a knockout, I think, is rare candy Gardevoir EX, attach reversal energy if they even have that, and then find your 10th psychic if it's not in the prizes. So the play is making a lot more sense now that I've seen it to completion, and I kind of like it. Your opponent needs so many pieces to be able to even attack this turn, which means that you can kind of keep on picking off this bench with your Cresselia.
Kind of curious as to what Irish's out would be here. Maybe something
Okay.
like a Turo.
It does look like, oh yeah, Turo would definitely be a big out for sure. And it does look like I thought there were 9 energy on the bench Gardevoir. As we see the Turo come through, spoke it into existence. Voiddyn,
Sometimes you just have to
Turo.
will it.
Yes. Turo, very cool card in the Gardevoir deck. I think a lot of decks in the past have tried to take advantage of the fact that Gardevoir had no retreat outs. We've seen Mawile before. We've seen paralysis from the likes of stuff like Articuno or stuff like Luxray V and Miraidon we've seen before. But with Turo added to the deck along with Palpad potentially putting Turo back, those strategies definitely a lot less powerful.
I think this is just them looking for the Gardevoir EX, right? To be able to attach energy after this Gardevoir gets knocked out.
Yes. But you can't play it down this turn because you don't want it to get knocked out right away.
Right.
I do wonder though, Renge had a really cool play of like trying to prevent your opponent from being able to retreat. I do have to wonder if maybe holding on to the Gust and forcing your opponent to play down Gardevoir EX maybe would have been a better play. I'm not sure about.
I think it was a cool play either way. It just didn't,
Yeah.
You didn't expect your opponent to draw their Turo. One of Turo,
Yes.
right, with 14 cards left in list.
Yeah, there's 7 cards in deck, 9 cards in hand, and one of those was the prize card. So it was roughly 50-50 for them to have it or not, which is it's a reasonable risk to take if you have to. Iono down to 1 now. Turo was like kind of the perfect out here, but that being said, Iono to 1, really powerful, only 1 refinement left, so even though Turo kept Iris in the lead, we still might see Renge pull off the comeback thanks to this Iono.
The Iono being so strong there.
And actually, I think Manaphy being on the bench here
Yeah.
means that... No, I think... So if we evolve into Gardevoir EX, we can Cresselia for 60, which isn't quite enough. So you would need Gardevoir EX plus a Psychic Pokemon. Artisan would work, but I don't know if there are any in deck. I think all the rolls might be in the discard, so...
Right, so we're just crossing our fingers and hoping that something comes out of this.
Yeah, I guess you would need Gardevoir EX plus Super Rod if there are no Psychic Pokemon left. But there might be something like a Mew or something. If that's the case, then you would just need Gardevoir for game here.
There's the Super
Okay,
Rod.
Super Rod. That's step 1. You can put back double Gardevoir EX. I don't know if they're both in the discard, but you can put back Gardevoir EX for sure. And then you can put back a basic Psychic Pokemon if you know that there's none in deck. And then Artisan it out, and then Refinement to try and draw into the Gardevoir EX. I don't think you want to put back anything that's not Gardevoir EX or a Psychic Pokemon.
You just put those 2 back.
Yeah. So Artisan coming through. Heart of the cards. There probably are a couple outs here off of this Refinement. Could get a supporter.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to Fog Crystal first to thin out a Psychic, and then we're going to Radiant Greninja Concealed cards, which does get you 2 more cards because now you can Refinement. And this does open up Ultra Ball as an out as well. Ultra Ball, Supporter, Gardevoir EX, all would win the game here. Potentially Worker. Is there a Gardevoir EX? That was the last draw option that
There's
they have.
There's the Gardevoir EX.
They found it! Gardevoir EX going to come through. Psychic Embrace onto these 4 Psychic Pokemon. Just like we were talking about, Voiddyn.
Everything
Irish
just worked.
with the Irish luck, with the luck of the Irish, as you will.
Oh my goodness, this game was insane. This game was intense. And honestly, the fact that, it was neck and neck almost the whole entire way, and Wrench was like, look, I don't absolutely have it, but I could.
Yeah, totally. I think Wrench basically made a 50-50 play last turn and made like maybe close to a 50-50 play this turn. But unfortunately it just didn't work out for them. So we're going to see Irish Luck taking it all, winning our finals here at the EU Late Night.
And with that, guys, we're gonna switch over, talk about the matches tonight, and we will be right back. Hello, everybody, and we're back. Unfortunately, I lost Vic's cam. I'm going to fix that. 2 seconds.
While you're doing that, thank you, chat, for hanging out. We've got 30 of you right now, which is pretty good numbers for our EU Late Night. I know that for a lot of our players and viewers, it's not the best time right now. It's either super late or super early, but thank you for hanging out.
Yeah, it's always a blast doing these late nights. We get to see so many cool decks that we normally don't get to see, especially because, we get to have people bring in weird stuff, because while there is some stuff on the line, it is a free tournament to enter. So, things that we saw tonight, right? We saw the Palkia list come live on stream.
Right.
We saw Mew VMax, right? I did see this Archeops list, not Archeops list, I'm sorry. Arceus Tapu Koko list. That looked very interesting, with Flying Pikachu, which was kind of cool. Like Paralyzed Luck.
Yeah. We've seen stuff like that before, but haven't seen it recently, so it's cool to see it make a comeback.
Well, I think a lot of people are not teching great into certain matches, and that's why other people get to run away with it, and that means that you're in a healthy meta where you have to decide, what am I teching for, what's my worst game, and what am I accepting a loss for. So and I guess with that, congratulations to Irish Luck for winning the matchup, Gardevoir v Gardevoir. Yes. Insane mirror match. So it's just one of those things that, the more and more you watch them play, the more and more you're like, wow, I can't believe that this person, was able to just pull this out. Like that in Irish getting that last KO, digging, one of the better late night moments we've seen in a while.
For sure.
And yeah, I think with that, we're going to get ready to call it a night, because NA Late Night will be starting soon. Vic, where can people find you if they want to, follow you for Pokemon content as well as coaching?
Yeah, check me out here on... Well, I'm here every Wednesday pretty much, streaming on the Shuffle Squad channel, but I also have my own YouTube channel, Victor PKMN, Twitter __itvic, and then Discord itvic. You can message me there as well. Thank you. And also, of course, if you need more Pokemon content late night starting now, you can join as a late participant, and we will be streaming the top 8 of that later tonight. So come back and get more Pokemon tournament content. And
guys, I've been your host for tonight, Voiddyn, the fill-in host. You guys can find me on Twitter at Voiddyn, or you can find me on YouTube, where I'm making, beginner guides to decks. I think it's just Voiddyn Pokemon. So just search me on there. Very interesting name, I know. If you guys are interested in any of the lists that you've seen tonight, most likely there's a video for it on the Shuffle Squad. I believe that yesterday the Palkia VStar and Ice Rider VMax video was uploaded along with a Charizard EX list that has been uploaded as well. So if you're looking for any of the new content of any of these decks that you've seen, most likely the Shuffle Squad has a list for it. They do Pokemon videos every day. If you're not already subscribed, consider subscribing for great streams such as this and other content as well. Hang on tight. There will be an NA cast soon. We thank you guys for joining us tonight and have a fantastic evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.